Good morning, Fence fam. Welcome back. It's awfully good to see you. We're going to chat live again. Welcome. I guess what I should say. Welcome back to another live Q&A. Ask the expert, if you will. It's the title of this thing. With myself, Joe Everest, the fence expert, and you guys. Appreciate you guys joining us. Let's get through here and say hello to a few people. First off, we've got a few questions. I want to say hi to everybody first, and then we'll get to some questions. We've already got them. If you've got fencing questions, drop them in the chat. We'll bring them up. All right. So first and foremost, Ideal Fence LLC. What's up, Fence fam? James with Ideal Fence, North Central Indiana. Good morning, James. Welcome to the show. Of course, everybody knows Roger. Roger says hello, everyone, and hello, Joe. Not sure who is going to show up today. Caleb? Stuck with me. Sorry, Roger. Just me today. There's a lot going on out in the fence world, and everyone's doing fence stuff today, and that's understandable. Now, Caleb will be back. I had to look at the calendar. I said Caleb's going to be back here. I think it's a couple weeks. Last Saturday of the month, and we're going to do some chatting about the live event. We're going to talk about the free event, the live training here in just a little bit. But in that live, we're going to be chatting about it as well. So last Saturday of the month, every month with Caleb. Roger, I appreciate it. Guys, that's the truth. Roger's reminding us to give it a like. It's a free way to help the channel. It helps the algorithm know that we're producing good content and that more people ought to watch it. So if you give it a like, I surely do appreciate it. Also, if you're watching us on YouTube and you haven't subscribed yet, click down here. If that subscribe button is red, go ahead and hit that button and subscribe to the channel. 9 out of 10 people that watch the content, not subscribed. Now we're doing better. It was 97% of the people that watch the content weren't subscribed, so we're making headway. But still, 9 out of 10, not great. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. It always helps the channel, and it helps us to figure out if we're doing all right or not, if we're doing well for you guys. James says, howdy from Florida. Man, James, I wish I was in Florida right now. I tell you what, I've got a friend who's in Florida and having the time of their life and stuck here doing fence stuff. So welcome, James. Hope everything's going well for you in Florida. Tanner's here. Good morning, Tanner. So good to see you. Happy to see you. Glad to see you. Whatever the words are. I appreciate you being here. Sarah Kennedy. Good morning, Joe. Good morning, Sarah. We'll actually be down visiting. So Sarah's with Chattahoochee Fence. We'll actually be down for their grand opening. Gosh, that's coming up, 3 weeks or so? The 1st of October, the 3rd of October, the first weekend or first Monday in October. There we go. So I'm excited to get down there and see their new location, see their new dip tank and what all they're doing. Of course, been following Sarah's Facebook. They've been doing lots of construction work, and I can't wait to see it. If you guys want more information on the grand opening, I actually shared their event on my Facebook page. So it's facebook.com/The Real Joe Everest. And then click over to events, and I shared Chattahoochee Fence's event. So it's got their address, the dates, the whole thing. If you guys are in the area, I'd sure like to see you over there. Chris Steele's here. Fence fam. Hi, Steel Fence in Pensacola, Florida. Another Florida guy. Is this the day where Florida's going to take over? Maybe. But I don't know. Texas is usually in the house. We'll see. JJ says hello from Northeast Ohio. Hello, JJ. Welcome to the show. We have a bit of Facebook royalty from across the pond here with us. If I can get my mouse to click. David White, D&J Projects. All right, Joe. All right, David. If you guys, so I had Stevie and David on. Gosh, it's been maybe a month and a half. These are a father-son duo from over in the UK in Nottingham that are producing incredible YouTube content. You should check them out. The YouTube channel is D&J Projects. Search D&J Projects on YouTube, and you will find David and Stevie. Very good guys. Glad to have them in the Fence fam. Corey says, Fence is life. Corey, you're not kidding. Tell you what, if you don't enjoy it, there might be something wrong with you. Terry says, how do you repair a leaning fence due to heaving? Well, Terry, so I tell you what, so it's due to heaving. So it's throwing the post up out or pushing the post up out of the ground, if I can get my mouth to work correctly this morning. So frost heave is when a post is set above the frost line, meaning that the frost permeates through the ground below the post, and as it's freezing, it pushes everything up. Normally not a problem, unless you've got a fence post, a mailbox, any number of things. They'll actually push them up out of the ground. Terry, I tell you what, the only solution I'd have for you would be to pull the post, dig deeper, typically at least 6 inches below the frost line in your area, which could be pretty deep depending on the area. And then with frost heave being a worry, you'd also bell out the bottom. So the bottom of the post would be wider than the top of the post, so that ground gives you some support against frost heave. Not an easy repair, but that's how you do it right. So ASTM is 30 inches, so a minimum of 30 inches deep or 6 inches more than the frost line, whichever is deeper. Steven says, not a business, but as a property owner here and there, I put in a lot of fence. Well, Steven, we're glad to have you all the same. Yeah, so I was going to bring this up. Those of you here in the States, well, I mean, I think everyone pretty well knows what we're talking about when we're talking about 9/11. Yeah, so this morning, actually, so right now, 20 years ago, it was the United States was going through a bit of a shock. Yeah, we need to remember those that are lost, right? So, remember them in your own way. I'm not going to tell you how to remember them, but yeah, say a prayer or whatever you do. So, yeah, Terry, thank you. Appreciate you reminding us. Tim says, Joe, you're looking well rested. Thank you. Actually, I've been up and down a little bit lately. So, yeah, well rested. I wish I was a little bit more well rested, to be honest with you. But Tim, thank you all the same. October 4th for Chattahoochee Stain in Columbus, Georgia. Y'all join us. I couldn't agree more. Like I said, we're gonna head down there to Chattahoochee Fence, go see them. So it'll be a quick trip for me, but we will be there on the 4th. Actually, my sister Sarah's getting married on the 2nd. So flying out the 3rd, I'll be there the 4th, and flying back home on the 5th. And it'll be a quick trip. But if you're in the Columbus, Georgia area, the Fort Benning area, stop by and say hi. Sure like to see you guys. Vince Guy says hello from Minnesota. Maybe the furthest north person we've had so far. Hello, Minnesota. Cannon Johnson, the one, the only. Good morning from Tennessee, home of the best fence builders. Debatable. Not saying you're not, but home of one of the best fence builders. Let's say that. Now, there's some good guys from out there in Tennessee. I tell you what, so I saw some pictures of Cannon's operation. Mr. Fence, Sean King, was actually just out there, posted up some pictures. Looked like you guys had a good time, learned a lot. Always elevating the fencing industry. I love it. James says, best of both worlds, Texas guy in Florida. Well, all right, James, there you go. So you're in Florida. So third vote for Florida so far. Florida's far and away. Yeah, so Ken says, saw you and Sarah, the new team member yesterday. You guys are great. So Kai, let me tell you our story about Kai. We did a fence for these folks probably a month and a half, 4-foot black coated chain link. Keep the dogs in. Kids, pets, and bad neighbors are the three things that keep a fence company in business. So we're doing it for the dogs. And didn't know at the time they have an adult son who has difficulties, right? So he's autistic. He's on the autism spectrum. And so he had come out and he had a lot of questions. He had all the questions, what we're doing and why we're doing it and when we'll be back and all that stuff. So the guys were great. Took a ton of time with Kai, walked him through, the process and let him hold some fittings and help him with fittings so he could help with the fence to keep his dogs in. And it really made an impact. So Kai went on to make a Facebook post about Ozark Fence and a picture of our sign and that he wanted to get a job at Ozark Fence. And it's funny the way timing works, right? And you call it fate or call it whatever you will. There's a lot of different names for it, but timing is everything. So we had recently been having a conversation about how we can bring more team members into the company that might not have a lot to do with fence, but has a lot to do with building community, right? So it was, like I said, funny timing. So this came up, reached out to Kai's dad, said, hey, would it make sense for us to have a conversation about maybe Kai coming in once a week for a few hours and helping us around the office? We got all sorts of stuff we need help with, and we think he'd make a good addition to the team. So Kai and his dad came up last Friday. We had a conversation, and sure enough, Kai wanted to come to work for Ozark Fence. So Kai works for us every Friday from 9 to 1. I tell you what, so this guy, he brings so much laughter to the office. It was a good time. So Kai is the head paper shredder. He said he likes to make little papers into or big papers into little papers, shredding them up. He thinks that process is amazing. So we got all the paper in the office and we had a shredding party all day. So Sean says, take care of your team plus one, right? So this week, and Kai is going to come to work with us every Friday, but this week our plus one was Kai. Man, he had a blast. He had so much fun. So, and we did too, being a part of that situation. So yeah, Cannon, I appreciate you bringing that up. Kai is a great addition to the team. Terry says, I'm in Columbus, Ohio, Joe. All right. Well, Columbus, Ohio gets pretty cold. Let's see. So yeah, so you're further north, which means frost heave will definitely be a thing. So you can look up. There's a map for frost depth. Who would put that out? U.S. Department of Agriculture, maybe. Just search frost depth, Columbus, Ohio, and see where your frost depth is. 6 inches on top of that or below that would be where you'd want to be. That or 30 inches. But I have a feeling. So here in Southwest Missouri, our frost line's about 20 inches. So I have a feeling yours is going to be a little bit deeper than that. Julio says, hello, Joe. Thank you for the great content. Julio, welcome. You're very welcome. Julio's with. There we go. Julio's with us from Des Plaines Fence in Des Plaines, Illinois. Had a little mute problem going on with the audio there. Keith Pace, hello to you. Turn and Burn Road Trip Southeast. Now that is a name. Columbus, Georgia here. Well, I'll tell you what, so you guys ought to come to the Chattahoochee grand opening happening October the 4th. Like to meet you in person. Milwaukee Fence Finder says, tuning in from Wisconsin. Bet from the Milwaukee area. Love Wisconsin area. So my wife's brother actually lives up in Kenosha. So we haven't taken a trip post-pandemic, but pre-pandemic, we'd go up there once or twice a year. Beautiful area. We'd go up. Usually we'd head up to Milwaukee and we spend one day in Chicago, one day in Milwaukee. So for what that's worth. Ken says, I still say you look a year older since the last time we saw you. Yeah. All right, Cannon. Thanks. Appreciate that. I am a year older since the last time you saw me, I guess. Technically, maybe. Had a birthday a couple days ago. So thank you, Cannon, for bringing that up. From now on, so I'm 38. And from here on out, for the rest of everything, 38 and holding is the magic number. Matt Warner, what is up, Fence World? What is up, Matt? Matt's in Reno, Nevada. Nevada? Is that a place? Reno, Nevada. For a convention. I saw my salesman had him and I believe Jamie up in the booth. And yeah, Matt, thanks for joining us from the convention there. I believe the West Coast Fencing Convention, I think. Something about the West Coast, the AFA West Coast chapter or something to that effect. Hope it's going well for you. Roger says your county extension will probably have frost depth information. Yeah, so that's a great point. And it'll probably be more accurate than just searching the Department of Agriculture records. Reach out to your county extension. Roger, great point. Turn and Burn says, we will be there. I can't wait to see you. Now, you'll have to come up and introduce yourself as Turn and Burn Road Trips Southeast, and then I'll know. Matt says, Scott, we made Jay stay home. Well, tell you what, not everybody gets to go have fun, I guess. Well, guys, as you guys come on in, so if you got Fitz questions, drop them in the comments below. I'm going to scroll back up to the top. So he says, Joe, hey, Joe, it's been a while, but I have 2 questions to follow. All right, 2 questions. 1, how many nails do you put in supports for all wood fences? I use 3 1/4 inch ring shank galvanized to put at least 2 nails in each end of the 2x4, sometimes 3 in the middle 2x4. Well, so we use a steel postmaster post. So, but the question still stands: how many fasteners per 2x4? We'll do 2 on the ends. So we actually will run post to post with the 2x4s, and this relates to a question, your follow-up question. So we'll put 2 in either end of the 2x4. We don't span post with 2x4s. I understand the argument for it, right? Offset, you use 16-foot 2x4s, and you offset your joints. More than likely a stronger fence. Completely understand. For repairs, it's a nightmare. And I don't know I don't know that the additional strength you get is worth the additional cost in the future to try to repair that fence. So we don't span post with the 2x4s, but 2 fasteners per 2x4 per end is the answer. Four fasteners per 2x4. Hope that made sense. Then your follow up is, how important is it to use a 14 to 16 foot 2x4 to connect every other wood post across the top? I normally just use 8-foot 2x4s and go post to post, and I've never had a problem. Same. I mean, that is our process. Now, there are plenty of guys out there that would like to have this debate, and that's fine, that say spanning posts and offsetting your joints makes for a stronger fence. And I can understand that, right? So you don't have your fail. So they would say the joints are the fail point, which they're probably not wrong. Like that probably is a point of failure. And so they're offsetting the points of failure. So for every post, you would have, depending on the post, you either have a top joint and a bottom joint with the middle 2x4 spanning, or vice versa. And your question, it looks like the top 2x4 would be the spanning 2x4. So maybe the middle and the bottom would not span. I'm not sure. Haven't seen that, but everybody does it differently. And guys, here's the thing. So we were recently at a free training event in Richmond at a Chesterfield Fence in Richmond, Virginia. And we had this conversation a lot that there's no one way, right? There is no, this is the way and this is the only way. And if you don't do it this way, your fence is, going to be falling apart in no time. It's going to be imperfect or anything like that. There's not one way, right? So the way that works for you, if it's worked for you for many, many years and you've had great success with it and it fits for your region, that's probably the best way to build fence in your area for you, following your process. Now, can we share with other people our process? Sure. Maybe they're looking to improve it. And that's really the big thing about these training events is it gets a bunch of fence guys and gals and stain guys and gals in the same room talking about different types of fence, right? Or how they do fence, or their tips and tricks on speeding up the fence or making it more efficient or making a higher quality, building a better fence. So that's our way. Our way is we don't span posts, because when it comes to repairs, the repairs are faster, i.e. less expensive, or therefore less expensive for the client, because we have less man hours in fixing this fence and making it whole again, right? So would a fence be stronger spanning 2x4s? Very well could be. I can understand how that would happen or how that would be justified. But I don't know that the additional strength is worth the additional cost in the future of trying to repair that fence. Say if a limb falls on it or car drives through it, whatever the repair need is. One guy's answer, right? So guys in the chat, why don't you let us know, do you span those of you that build wood fence, do you span the 2x4s across every other post, or do you use 16-foot 2x4s, or do you use 8-foot 2x4s? Be an interesting discussion to have. Thank you for the question. As you guys are coming in, if you guys have, I don't know what is going on with this microphone. Let's see what's going on with our audio real quick. All right. Maybe this audio will be better. Can you still hear me? Let me know. Didn't give me the muted icon, so hopefully you're hearing me. I guess we'll find out here in a minute. Yeah, Zach calls it staggering. Makes sense, right? And guys, like I said, there's several discussions like this going on in the fence world right now. So we've got nails versus screws is always a good one to get people riled up. Lately, it's concrete discussions, right? Is it wet set or is it dry set? If you dry set, do you compact, or do you use base rock and tamp the base rock in? I had a guy, we had a guy stop by Ozark Fence earlier this week, watches the channel, was driving by, and thought he'd stop in and have a discussion on concrete, on how to set. And so he uses base rock and compacts the base rock, and he swears up and down that that's the only way to do it. Could be, not the only way, one of the ways, right? So you've got people on both sides of the aisle on the concrete versus, no concrete, or wet versus dry. I think the staggering is the same thing, right? I think it's similar. Both sides of the aisle have their benefits, right? So staggering, like I said, I could be convinced that it makes for a stronger fence. How much stronger though? And is it worth the additional expense later on to the client of having that fence repaired? I don't know. I don't think so. But if you stagger your rails and that way works for you, then that's probably the way you should do it. I don't know. I'm not telling you you're right or you're wrong. I think it's interesting. We should all learn from it. Rachel's with us for My Salesman. Rachel, welcome. Welcome to the lot. I always want to say podcast. This isn't a podcast. This is a Facebook Live and a YouTube Live. Welcome to the live show, Rachel. JJ weighs in with 2 before 8s. Same, buddy, same. I think, I bet if we were to poll nationwide, I'd almost bet the 2 before 8s may be more common than 2 before 16s. But I could be wrong. I've been wrong before, and I will be wrong again sometime in my life, I feel sure. But I would think 2 before 8s in talking with the professionals that I talk to, which granted, mostly here in the Midwest, so maybe this is a Midwest thing. Most everybody's 2 before 8s. Ideal Fence says post to post, been doing that for 20 years. Very good. Only time I use longer 2 before 4s is on gates. I use 12 foot to cantilever over to the latch post. That makes sense. So we'll use, occasionally we will bypass a post. So if it's next to a house, right? So typically your posts in our area, the foundation below grade kicks out about 16 to 18 inches, sometimes 2 feet, depending on if they had extra concrete on the truck that day. So your closest post to the house will typically be 16, 18, 24 inches off the house. So in that case, we would use a longer 2 before, a 12 or 14 footer to get past that post over to the house. So maybe I should say we do both. But when we're building fence, we typically go post to post. We will go past a post to Ideal Fence's point and cantilever past that last post. They're talking about on a latch post scenario, but we'll do it over to the house as well, because we don't attach to houses. I think we as an industry should probably agree on that attaching to houses in areas that have climate change. So I say climate change, that have seasonal changes, winter to summer, right? So the reason we don't attach to houses here in the Midwest is there's a pretty drastic difference between winter and summer. We'll go from, today is supposed to be 95 to 98 degrees. And the winter time, it'll be -10 to -20 on the really bad weeks. So quite a bit of range in temperatures there. So what you don't want to happen is you don't want to bolt the fence to the house and then have the house shift at a different rate than the fence shifts at, because the house is heavier and it sits on a wider foundation. So you don't want that fence moving and in the wintertime and then either breaking out the siding or breaking out the fence. Anyway, so we cantilever past the post. That was a bit of a rabbit hole. Thank you. Happy to be here. Very good, Rachel. So Rachel, Matt, and My Salesman will actually be at Chattahoochee Fence also October 4th. They'll also be at the free training we're hosting at the end of October. So we're doing a free training here at Stain Steel Experts Business Development School. Still working on a great title there, but what we're trying, this is the event that has been called Staining University for years. Caleb and Ashley put on an incredible event. But I sat down with Caleb. Gosh, it's been a couple years ago now. And he said, what if it was more? He said, I can get up there and talk about stain, but I don't like to be the only person up there presenting and teaching and talking. I'd like to bring in other industry professionals to try to share their way about whatever they happen to be good at, whatever their specific skill set is, right? As tradesmen and women, tradespeople, we typically are good at a lot of things, but specialize in one or two things. So he said, what if we brought in professionals in those one or two areas that specialize in one or two areas that complement each other? And we go from a staining university to a wider business development type training. And that's what it's been the last couple of years, right? And so Caleb and Ashley are working on a new title, and we've been kind of kicking titles around a little bit. Haven't settled on one, but the gist of it is, so the way the trainings have been working is there's just as much practical, hands-on stain training as there is business development. So Matt Warner typically talks about company culture or business development. If you haven't heard Matt talk on these subjects, you absolutely need to. He's a guy that I view as a mentor, that is running a business in such a way that they have incredible company culture. And so to hear him speak on the subject, I sit there and take notes just like everybody else. But we talk about business development. I talk about marketing. So social media marketing, go figure, right? Creating videos like these that resonate with a potential client base. Now, obviously, I guess these aren't resonating with the client base, but using video to connect with people at their time, at their place, right? That's scalable. So I talk about that. We talk about Sean King typically does like a fence installation school, also talks about the operational side, the finance, I guess, isn't the right, knowing your numbers, right? Knowing your numbers intricately and knowing what to do with that information. So it's morphed from a staining university. That is still part of it, but there's also a whole nother half of it that talks about, Caleb does practical hands-on, but then also he talks about fence staining business 101, right? What to think about, how to market, how to reach potential clients, how to operate as a business rather than operating as a contractor. And there is a pretty sizable difference between those two. So yeah, we're working on a title. I say we're working on a title. I gave him some suggestions, and Caleb and Ashley are thinking hard on that. But I think it's Staining University and or State and Steel Experts, Staining University and Business Development University or something to that effect. Business, what do we say? Anyway, you get the point. We're having one of those at the end of October. Actually, here in Springfield, Missouri, over the DoubleTree, they need a bunch of fence stained, and it's a great location. They've got great meeting rooms, and they've got fence needs stained. They've got restaurants on site. They got restaurants across the street. They got a Big Shots Golf, which think Top Golf. It's a competitor of Top Golf. So we got some things to do. So my sister Sarah and I had a Zoom call with Ashley and Caleb where we started laying out the groundwork of how we think it's going to go and how we think it's going to be laid out. A little bit different than events in the past. Fewer speakers. So fewer speakers, more time to talk, but more than anything, more time for just the participants, those that are there to learn, to interact with each other, right? We're building in free time, just discussion time, table discussions or group discussions, that sort of thing. We're going to give it a shot. We're always trying to find a way that works a little bit better. All right. Sean King says, no reception in the middle of nowhere. Sean is always on the move. Can't pin that guy down. Tell you what. So when I reached out to Sean about this event, go figure he's going to be traveling. He's doing some more training. This guy I don't think he tells people that he sleeps. I don't think he sleeps. I think he is always working on something. He's always on the move. But, Sean's, we all have this mentality. Right? When you're talking about Sean or Matt or Caleb or myself, we're all trying to elevate the industry and make the whole industry better, right? Because as I've said, a rising tide raises all the ships. If we can elevate the industry, it elevates all of us. And I tell you what, Sean is the tip of the spear on that. He's all over everywhere. I can't convince him to get a pilot's license. I'm working on him. I was like, Sean, for however long you spent driving down the road or sitting in airports, you could be there by now. We're working on it. Dylan Blanc, I think we're calling him Fence Prince. What is up, Joe? What is up, Dylan? So glad you guys made it through the storm, the Louisiana storm there. I'm glad you guys made it out all right. It sounds like you guys have got your work cut out for you for probably the next 24 months or so. Best of luck. As always, I reach out to you guys, but as always, if anybody down there needs help, let us know. We'll figure out how we can pitch in and make the fence fam a little bit stronger. Jacob Scalhorn says, definitely look a year older. I feel a year older, if we're being honest. You wake up and your bones creak a little bit more. When I get out of bed, I got to stretch a little bit now because I never used to have to stretch. He's bounced out of bed, right on to work, no problem. In our younger days, we would be out the night before, get a few hours of sleep, bounce out of bed, and go build some stuff for a while. And I don't know how that works. I don't know how I was able to do that because now it's like if we go out one night, 3 or 4 days later, you're still feeling it. So I don't know. Dylan says we use 2x4/16s. Perfect example. So 2x4/16s that now Dylan and them. So Fence King down in New Orleans. So I say New Orleans, but about 100 miles north of New Orleans. They use Postmaster posts, but 2x4/16s. interesting. So they probably flip them around, and that way they're able to go past each post. Different people building fence differently. And I've seen a lot. So on the Fence King Facebook page, so Dan has shared with us quite a few posts on his Facebook page saying how well people's fences fared after the hurricane that came through there. So obviously, you guys are onto something. So maybe I'll be convinced and we'll switch to 16-foot 2x4s. I don't know. You never know. I'm not ruling it out. I'm just saying for us, 8-footers have worked for 60, however many years since 1955. So 2021 minus 1955, and that many years has worked out pretty well for us. So everyone does it differently. And if it works for you and it works well, that's the way. Caleb is fired up. All right, Caleb, what are we fired up about, Caleb? Let's talk about it. Ethan Koster says, you guys ever install hardwood fences? So here in the Midwest, we don't. So typically our two choices are going to be cedar or a treated pine. Now, as you get further west, your options get a little bit more varied, right? So you hear about guys dealing with redwood a lot. So on fences. Now you talk to deck guys, those guys are getting into the Ipe, like the really hardwoods, which incredibly interesting. Do I ever think we'll see fence made out of that? No. I mean, Ipe is to the point now where I think you're going to start seeing it less and less in building materials in general, decks or anything. So Ipe is having or the Ipe industry is having issues with deforestation, that sort of thing. So, which is something we need to be cognizant of. So if you're asking me if we install hardwood fences, we don't. But I'm interested in it. I think they look really nice. And of course, they last nearly forever. So I would certainly be interested in it. But hardwoods don't grow that fast. So we need to keep that in mind when we're talking about building stuff out of them. How quickly do they grow back? Are we doing more harm than good long term, like for the planet sort of thing? We need to talk about it. We need to think about it. So no, we don't. We don't install hardwood. But I'd like to, if it can be done in a manageable way. David says, great from Brothers Fence and Contracting, 20 plus years. What's trending in your markets? David, this is a great question. I'd like to hear about this in the chat too. Like, what are you guys seeing in your market as far as, we could start with talking about leads. So we had this conversation at our Friday wrap-up meeting that leads are coming back. So leads probably over the last month have slowed a bit. Residential leads, commercial leads are still remain really strong. Residential leads tailed off, 4 weeks ago, and then for the last several weeks. This week, residential leads were strong again. So it could be the heat. So here locally, it's been really, really warm lately. So 2 and 3 weeks ago, we had heat index warnings. So we had conversations about, the signs of heat stroke and heat-related illness. People just weren't out in their yards. And then you got Labor Day, right? So people are out grilling. They're looking at their fence going, we really should get this thing, worked on or replaced before winter. So here in the mid, so where I'm in Southwest Missouri, we don't get really strong winters, right? So they're typically not prolonged. We'll have a week or so. Of course, the entire United States had a week or so of some really severe winters last winter. But that's usually that's pretty par for the course for us. It'll be bad for a week or so. The rest of the winter, kind of mild. It might snow, but then the snow's gone the next day. So we don't get a hard winter. But for whatever reason, people are very concerned about building fence in the wintertime here. So they think, I don't know what they think. I don't know if they think we just like shut down, pack up, and move everyone south for the winter or what happens. But the question we start getting right around now is, so how much longer are you guys building fence? Like, well, you mean like before winter? That's what the question is, right? So yeah. When do you guys stop building fence? We don't stop building fence. We build fence all year long because we've got bills all year long. The light bill for this place is going to come every single month. The mortgage needs paid every single month. Not to mention all of our team members, same story. Everybody's got bills 12 months out of the year. We are building fence 12 months out of the year. But right around now, right around Labor Day, everyone gets really worried. They want to get their fence in before the wintertime, which we try to educate them and say, well, if you need it right now, we will build it right now. We're 4 to 6 weeks out. We can get it in the ground for you. But if you're willing to wait till the off season, so probably late October, early November is when things really start slowing down on the residential side, you can likely get a free upgrade. Now, every winter's different. You never know for sure, but typically we'll start offering free upgrades in late October, early November. The free upgrades are going to be, if we're talking about cedar fence or a wood fence in general, we will pre-stain the cedar materials for no additional charge. Free upgrade to pre-stained cedar materials when you choose an option that includes cedar. And we issue that caveat because we do offer pine pickets and pine rails as one of our more economy tier fences, but we don't pre-stain any of the pine. It needs to season. Now, there are guys out there that will pre-season pine. God bless you. I think you should if you can. But for us here, I haven't had a great experience seasoning pine that's not on a structure, right? So pine that's nailed up, that's on a nice strong structure, typically does pretty well. If you unbundle a bundle of pine pickets to try to get them to season and get airflow around them, they tend to start spelling letters, right? They'll warp and twist and cup and all the rest of the nasty stuff treated pine does. So we'll keep cedar on hand. We'll season cedar in our shop. We've got 4 or 5 bundles in there right now that are seasoning just to be ready for the next pre-stain job. So we'll offer a free upgrade. Now that came after I watched one of Sean King's videos where he was talking about don't discount, upgrade, right? And so if you think about it, it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen another, except for the perception, right? So the perception being, so we used to offer a discount. We used to offer a 10% discount. Well, we'd start, depends on how far out we were. So as our workload started getting lighter, we'd start with a 5% discount. And then usually right around the end of the year, first of the next year, we'd bump it up to 10% discount to keep our team members busy, to keep them, because you don't want to lose guys in the middle of the winter. But if you start cutting hours, guys will start wandering away. They'll go somewhere else. Factory work here is pretty big. We've got a lot of manufacturing here that works 12 months out of the year. So if you start cutting a guy's hours and he's got bills coming up every single month, he wanders off and goes to find factory work and he doesn't come back. So we would start offering a discount usually around Thanksgiving. Well, usually before Thanksgiving, and then ratchet it up as we got further behind. The problem is once you issue a discount, everyone knows it's available, right? So say, excuse me. So say you gave a bid. Usually this conversation comes up in late February, early March. So we would have given bids in early February. Typically in years that aren't nuts, we'd give a 30-day guarantee on our pricing, right? So in early February, we'd give a price with a discount. Well, and then work starts ratcheting up, piling up. We discontinue the discount. Well, then they'll get a hold of us the first part of March after that 30-day window, and the discount's no longer available. Now, the price is still the same, but the discount, if that makes sense, the price of installing the fence remains the same, but the discount goes away. The problem is that customer knew that discount was available. We typically end up honoring that discount just to save from having a fight. Well, and reviews on social media, right? Now, they will fight you if you take away a discount. They will understand if you discontinue an upgrade. It's perception, right? So during the winter, we offer free upgrade to pre-stained cedar materials. And then when the work starts piling up again, we'll discontinue the free upgrade and no one bats an eye. If anything, they'll ask what the charge is for the upgraded pre-stained cedar material. So we end up leading to higher upsells in the spring to pre-stained cedar material. We're also normalizing the look of pre-stained fence material here in Southwest Missouri. It's not necessarily a prominent thing to see a stained fence. Stained decks, more normal. Stained fences aren't super normal here. So a lot of folks will just build a fence and let it go to gray, which as a fence guy drives me nuts. I say for a minimal additional investment, you could really save the life of this fence or prolong the life of this fence for sure. You end up saving money in the long run. But anyway, it's not normal though. So people don't see it as being just a normal option. Now, this is going into our third or fourth year offering staining services. So we offered on-site staining first because we didn't have any of the facilities to pre-stain. Then we bought a pre-staining machine, started offering pre-stain. Then we moved into this new building where we have a shop that we could dedicate to staining. So we're making it more of a normal thing. But this is the third or fourth year of offering staining services, whether on-site stain or pre-stain. We're trying to push it. We really are. So it's starting to become more and more normal. And I say that, I know that because there's more painting contractors here locally that are now staining fences and decks. So becoming more of a normal thing. Anyway, and Sean King, I keep referencing Sean, but he's got a lot of good thoughts on these subjects. It's a twofer, right? So it benefits the client. It's like a threefer. Benefits the client. They get a free upgrade. Benefits us and our guys because we're keeping our guys busy. We don't have guys wandering off for factory work, but also it's normalizing the look of a stained fence. So it's an easier conversation when we're talking about either offering pre-staining or if it's a fence that we've installed years ago and talking about cleaning and staining their fence to prolong the life of it. So it's kind of a win-win-win, really. Let's see. Get caught up here. James says James is going to start the conversation. Dry setting for 20 years here in Florida, no frost line, 74% humidity, and really moist soil. So wet setting is unnecessary and inefficient for us. I like that James said for us at the end of that, right? So in his area, in his region and climate, it works no problem. Here in the Midwest, have we been known to dry set? Yeah, depending on the situation. And has it rained for the last 3 weeks? We had a really wet spring. So has it rained for the last 3 weeks? Is ground saturated? Yep. I think we could dry set this thing and compact it because I saw this guy, Sean, do it. And it works, right? It will just absolutely wick the moisture out of the ground into that concrete if the soil has moisture to give, right? So Mark Olson did a test on, it was either the SWI, so he's got 2 YouTube pages or several YouTube pages, SWI fence, and then the successful contractor. I want to say it was SWI, though. He did a comparison where he wet set a post, dry set a post, and then he used foam on a post. Let them set for like a month, pulled them up just to see what was there. Not much difference between the dry set and the wet set. Now, so he took a sledgehammer to it. The dry set did crack before the wet set. His point being, though, that the PSI required to crack this thing was probably greater than the force that a fence would be putting on it. So if we're talking about would one post fail before the other one in a normal course of events with a fence? Probably not. It's interesting to see. You guys should go watch it. SWI fence. This was probably 4 or 5 months ago. You'll have to go back in the archives a little bit. But again, James, I appreciate you sharing it. And like I said, understanding that it works for you. It's worked for you for 20 years. So in your case, by all means, that's the one. But we need to start talking the way James talked, right? So this is the way it works. It's worked for us. Here are the situations: the no frost line, 74% humidity, real moist soil. In these conditions, works like a charm. And he says, for us, right? Wet setting is unnecessary and inefficient for us. In our area, wet setting is more of a thing. So take that for what it's worth. We also typically go through droughts. Now, knock on some wood, no drought conditions this summer. Maybe things are changing. But in a drought condition, it probably wouldn't work as well just because there's not enough free moisture in the soil to be wicked up into that concrete. JJ says, just imagine how often we get that question about winter up here in Cleveland. I could imagine for sure. Yeah, winters in Cleveland are no joke. So I was up there for the customer service revolution. Gosh, it would have been 18 or 19 before all the craziness happened. And it was fall. It wasn't even winter. It was fall. And your guys' fall is a lot like our winter. So it gets significantly cold very quickly up there. So I can imagine how wintertime, you guys have like more real winters. You guys have real winter here. We get real winter occasionally, but not very often. And when we do, it shuts everything down. I'm sure like our shutdown conditions for winter are like your kind of bad days. You know, you're like, we go in, but we have a late start today. Whereas it shuts Springfield, Missouri down. Ideal Fence says wintertime trick for those who may not know, kill frost. Keeps nail guns working below freezing. Keeps air hoses from freezing as well. Ideal Fence is spreading some knowledge here. Kill frost. I'll look into it. That's interesting because so typically like our the trucks that do wood fence, so our wood fence crews, they'll bring their trucks inside so that the compressors, the hoses, and everything that stay warm. Makes for a tight fit in the shop when they're there, but we usually pull them in so that we keep all the moisture in these machines from freezing. I tell you what's crazy though. So this past winter, like I said, we had the week and a half of just brutally bitter temperatures. And we keep these trucks in the shop. Now, the shop was like at 45 degrees. It wasn't hot by any means or warm by any means, but it was above freezing all evening long, all night long, all first part of the morning. Then we'd send these trucks out about 9 or 10, let them really give them the best chance possible. And within a few hours, we were still freezing up airlines. So interesting. Kill frost. Ideal Fence, appreciate that. We'll look into that. Probably won't be able to source it locally, but I bet it's available online. Everything is available online. I'm actually going to write this down. So, if you guys taking notes at home, let's all take notes together. We'll all learn this together. So, Kill Frost, Kilfrost. I'll put airlines and nail guns. So it's probably like a demoisturizer, right? So it's probably an alcohol base or something like that, where any moisture blows out immediately, because that's what we're trying to combat when we're talking about seized up compressors or airlines or nail guns. Is just moisture, right? The moisture freezes and crystallizes and just typically does things you don't want it to do, restricts the airflow or seizes everything up. Dylan's got a question. So what percentage of your jobs are pre-stained? So this is going to be a range, right? I don't have the numbers in front of me. Sarah would probably know better than I would. My sister that runs a residential division. I would say 10 to 15%, maybe. That's probably about right. 10 to 15% of the residential jobs. So that includes like a chain link and ornamental iron. How many of wood jobs? If we're only looked at the wood jobs, we kind of threw away the chain link, iron, aluminum, vinyl, and the rest. Probably closer to 25 to 30%, maybe. I don't know. That's kind of just my intuition guessing, just based on the weekly, the Friday wrap ups. But I know we have two that so your question is about pre-stain. I know we've got two that we've got on-site stains for next week. Contractor, I just know that because the contractor came and picked up work orders and stained yesterday. We don't have any pre-stain projects coming up next week that we would have stained this week. So, interesting question, Dylan. I'll tell you what, let's talk about next week. I'll get with Sarah this week, likely in our Friday wrap up, and get an idea for what are the percentages that we see pre-stain. Obviously, more in the wintertime, right? Because we're offering the free upgrade. But for us, again, just talking about how many ways this makes sense, this pre-stain thing for us. We have a shop, not a massive shop, but a heated structure that we can do pre-stain in. Free upgrade in the wintertime, so we're selling more of it, but we're also giving guys more to do inside, right? Inside in the heat. So if guys want to make up hours, typically we'll back hours down to 30 to 35 through the wintertime. So if they want to make up that 5 to 10 hours that they didn't get in regular production work, we can always pre-stain, right? So the temperature is always warm in there, not hot, but warm enough to stain. So we keep pre-stain sales go up sales is probably not the right word because it's a free upgrade, but pre-stain projects go up in the wintertime right when guys need hours. So kind of works out for that too. But Dylan and I will report back with more firm numbers next week. David says the problem with dry setting is the guys who don't pack them in layers. Many just dump and run. I get it because we all need to make money, but it backfires every time. Agreed. Absolutely agree with you here, David. When we're talking about dry setting, there needs to be compaction. Now, some guys will do as David suggests and pack in layers. So they'll compact them in layers as they build, kind of like building a cake. If you visualize it that way, a little bit compaction, a little bit compaction, a little bit compaction. I watched Sean do it in person, and they'll the whole bag goes in, and then they'll compact with rods, right? So essentially doing the same thing. They'll start with driving the rods a little deeper, so they're compacting lower levels, until that level won't compact, and it forces that rod up until the whole pole's compacted. So Cannon, who was in the chat earlier, Cannon and I tried to pull one of these posts up. Cannon's in better shape than I am. I'm free to admit that. But the two of us couldn't yank this thing up out of the ground. Like it was surprising, just the immediate grasp this dry setting with compaction has on a post, and the posts weren't going anywhere. Now, if you wiggle the post, if you roll the post around, it'll come up a little bit easier. But so they compacted this. Sean and his crew compacted this post, set it like normal, and then we were trying to lift it vertically up out of the ground. It was a 4x4 with 8 posts, and that thing wasn't going anywhere. So at that point, I was sold on the process. It's something, it's interesting to see. But David's point is absolutely valid, that dry setting without compaction, that probably is the wrong way. I said earlier, there's no right way or wrong way, but compaction or dry setting without compaction, you're skipping a step, a critical step. James says, David hasn't backfired on us for 20 years here in the Hurricane State. Sounds like your guys need training. All right. So we're not going to get into heated discussions like this. So David was saying, James, David's point was, they don't pack them in layers. Many just dump and run. All right. So my guess, James, is your guys and your process. David's not saying it doesn't work. He's saying he's seen guys that simply just pour in the concrete and move on without compacting it. My guess is in your process, there's a compaction process. There's a compaction step in your process, right? And that's all David is saying. David says he's going to try Ideal's way, with the Kill Frost. Absolutely. It's that kid, 916, says, sending blessings and respect to all the quality fencers up in here. Checking in from Cali boy. Welcome from the great state of California. That's right. We're blessings and respect to all the quality fencers. I tell you what, some of the nicest guys I know are from California, and it's always blessings and respect. So you got to respect that. So David says, glad it works for you. Maybe we have a point about the variables here in Winchester, Virginia. I could drive across the street and the soil content will change rapidly. I think we're on something here, guys, right? So just because it works in one person's area with their methods and process doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody. But if we can listen, if we can watch their process and try to think about, will this process work with my process? I might need to modify it to fit my business model or to fit our process for installation, but can I pick up something out of this? Right. I think that's where the value here is, guys. I really do. Just because it works for James doesn't mean it'll work for David in the same way. The process might need modified. Doesn't mean it won't work or anywhere, or it will work everywhere. Again, Sean has a point when he's talking about, we can't speak in absolutes, right? Always and never should not be in our vocabulary, unless we're talking about certain subjects. Like, you should always have workman's compensation insurance. I can get behind that. But, when we're talking about processes and methods, always and never, not words to have in your vocabulary. We can always be learning. Michael Davis, Chesterfield Fence in Richmond, Virginia. Speak of the devil, he's here. Welcome, Michael. We were just talking about, the training event that we had. What was it? 3 weeks ago, maybe a month at this point, maybe. Kind of the phrase of the weekend was, your experience may vary, right? This is what works for me. It can work for you. Might need modified. It's the same thing we were just talking about with the concrete, that just because it works for one person doesn't mean it's going to work in the same way for the next person, but we can always learn from it, right? So, case in point, Matt Warner and I were talking. So Matt Warner, again, runs a business that I look up to and respect. Him as a business person I look up to and respect also. One of the things they do is Monday morning huddles. So every Monday morning, it's an all hands meeting. Everybody gets to look each other in the eye. They talk about what's coming up that week, what happened last week, how can we improve, that sort of thing. So everybody's on the same page starting off the week. Now, in our business, just in the way that cruise time schedules are set up, that's not really possible. Our version of that. Now, okay, is it possible? Yes. In our situation, what we found works best is we do a monthly, the last Friday, final Friday of every month, we have our huddle, right? And it's a day of there's no production on the schedule, there's no fabrication on the schedule. Retail sales still end up coming in. We're not turning away business here, but the final Friday of every month, it's a work on ourselves day, right? So we're doing building projects, cleanup projects, yard efficiency projects where we're organizing and just making things flow a little bit better. That for the morning, the afternoon, we either cater in or I cook. Last month, I cooked up some tri-tips, and Sarah cooked up some party corn and some smoked hash browns. Oh my goodness! If you haven't had smoked hash brown, like smoked hash brown casserole, you need to get some in your life like now. I would probably stop watching this and go find somewhere that serves smoked hash brown casserole because it was amazing. Anyway, we have lunch. All the team members, same table. We all have lunch. Now, a company the size of Matt's, you're gonna need a few extra tables, I think. But for our company, we put another table next to our conference table. We all eat lunch and say grace over the same food. We can look each other's in the eyes, talk about the ball game that just happened or the ball game that's coming up or the kids or this and that. We have lunch for about half an hour, 45 minutes. Just chit chat about nothing related to work. Then we launch into the afternoon meeting. We talk about what sales happened this month. What have we sold this month? What do we think is coming down the pipeline? Were there hiccups this month in the production schedule? We talk about what got produced this month, what sales tells production what's coming down the line for the next month because we're still 4 to 6 weeks out. So we know the final Friday, we know what we're doing for the whole next month as far as production goes. So we're having that chat. But anyway, it keeps everyone on the same page, right? So the fabricators get to hear the sales and the production, and the fabricators say, okay, so I know that 3 weeks from now, Jim sold this massive chain link job, and I'm going to have 6 cantilever gates that are 43 foot long, and I'm going to have, so many that one actually did have some slide gates on it and some swing gates. I know this is coming, right? So when I get the fabrication slip, it's not a surprise. I'm going to see it and now go, oh, I do remember it was 3 weeks ago. Okay, so we've got some gates coming up. Or in 2 weeks, they know that next week they've got some big gates coming down the line. So they know to ask for them if they're running slow. Anyway, I took Matt's idea of Monday morning huddles, and I applied them to my business, which is the final Friday, right? And it's a whole day rather than an hour in the morning. We stretch that into the whole day. Take care of the building, clean the building, for the morning. Nice lunch with everybody, afternoon meetings, and then everyone's free to either leave or we'll play cornhole or generally we hang out and just chit chat again just about life for a little while, and then everyone takes an early Friday. Seems to work out well for us. But I use this as an example of take these ideas, take these discussions that we're having, and see if they apply to you. See if they apply to your business. Might need tweaked, might need modified, but I bet they'll apply somehow. And maybe we can be incrementally better each and every time. Next thing you know, you look back and you're at the top of the mountain or towards the top of the mountain. I say that I haven't climbed. I'm not a mountain climber, if anyone didn't know that, but I have talked to people who do climb mountains, and it's that way, one step in front of the other. This is exactly what we're talking about. There are a lot of variables that dictate how you set post. Got to do what works best in your area. This is exactly the spirit of the conversation that we need in the industry, right? So, another conversation we had at Michael's event, Chesterfield's event in Richmond, was talking about we need to get to a point in our local markets where we don't view each other as competitors, right? We view each other as, I don't want to say coworkers, but we're all on the same page, right? We're not working against each other. We're working with each other, right? To make our local markets better, to make our local community better. Because for so long, we viewed this as you versus me if one of us was taken out of the equation, the other one couldn't keep up, right? It's Aaron down at Chattahoochee Fence. He uses this. He's like, we've got more work than we can say grace over, so it works out that there's 2 or 3 or 4 of us here. So they lighten the load for everybody. So we all take care of our own business in our own time. We're not competitors. We are, what is the word? It's not cohort. We are not contemporaries. Anyway, there's a word for this that my COVID brain is not picking up in the moment, but we're not competitors. We're all in this together, right? And the sooner we can get our local markets on that page, because here's the thing, guys, when we're at these training events, everyone has this mind, right? It works for me. It could work with you. And then you would say, well, it won't work for me because X, Y, and Z. And I say, oh, okay, well, we did see those before. And so when we saw that, when we had those issues, this is what we did, and it made it work, and it might make it work for you. We can do that at these national training events, whether it's in Richmond or it's down in Chattahoochee and Columbus, Georgia, or it's up here at the end of October in Springfield, Missouri. We have it at these training events. Why can't we take that home to our home markets, right? Why can't we all just get along? Seriously, people, come on. If James and David can agree to disagree on concrete setting, I think we all can. I'm telling you what, Michael, this is a real problem. So I start cooking these lunches at about, for the tri-tip, we start cooking at about 9 so that it gets a nice 2-hour smoke. I might start a little bit sooner than that. 2.5 hour, 3-hour smoke. I'm hungry before this stuff's even done, and that's an issue. Stainless steel experts, happy Saturday to you guys. Welcome. We were just talking about the training events coming up. We've got the one-day training event, the open house down at Chattahoochee Fence in Columbus, Georgia. Then the end of October here in Springfield, Missouri at DoubleTree. Both of the information on both of these you can find at facebook.com/The Real Joe Everest in the events tab. The registration for the free training event here in Springfield in the description below. Click the bit.ly link and they'll take you directly to it. Happy Saturday, Stainless Steel Experts. Glad to have you with us. Sarah Everest, can you make some smoked hash brown casserole on October the 27th? I bet we can talk her into it because I might just make it a requirement. It is that good. So, Rachel, I think we can make this happen. We need to figure, so I go back and forth on, October the 27th. So the training is 28th, 29th. I think these dates are right. Thursday, Friday for the training. Wednesday, we're having a private open house, if you will. I don't know if that's the right term for it, but that's what I'm calling it. For those that have registered to come to the free training event in Springfield. Now, the free training event is not here at Ozark Fence. We have a bunch of chain link fence here. We don't have a lot of fence to stain, but at the DoubleTree, they have a lot of fence to stain. It's never in the budget. This is a win-win again. So, but Wednesday, we're having a private open house here for those that are registered for the event. We'll see if we can talk Sarah into making that much hash brown casserole, smoked hash brown. If not, plan B is we're going to cater it in. I've got some ideas on food truck. There's some food trucks here. I'm sure food trucks are a thing everywhere. There are some food trucks here that their game is on point. Like it is. If you had told me 10 years ago that I'd be eating food out of a truck, I would have called you crazy. And we probably wouldn't have talked anymore. I would have thought you were that crazy. It just cut you loose, and I don't need that much crazy in my life. I was wrong. Food trucks are a thing. And we've got several here that are delicious. And they offer a pretty varied, that's the word, a pretty varied menu. We might be able to talk Sarah into, it depends how many people we think are coming based on the registration. So, very important. If you want to come to the open house here at Ozark Fence. So, all right. So I just got done telling you guys about Final Friday, right? All hands on deck. Everyone's here at Ozark Fence. No production for the day. For the month of October, we're moving this up from Final Friday to the last Wednesday. So we're going to have all hands on deck here. My whole team would be available. I came up with this idea at Michael's event. So some of the speakers showed up a day before, and we all just kind of hung out at Chesterfield Fence. And, Michael was so gracious to open up the office to us. We could chat with really whoever we want to talk to about their process. And because they're growing at such a rapid pace, it's amazing to me to see the processes that are in place that allow that much growth. That's what makes my mind tick. And that's what I really wanted to learn and figure out. And Michael was so gracious that anyone there was available to chat. Right. So I want to do that as well. So the Wednesday before the training, so I believe the training is the 28th and 29th. The 27th is a Wednesday. Whatever that Wednesday is, that's the last Wednesday of the month. All our people will be here on hand. So if you're coming to the event, you need to pre-register to come to the private open house, just so we have an idea how many people we're trying to feed, right? But my whole crew will be available, my whole team. So we're talking production crews, we're talking sales team, we're talking project coordinators. Everybody's going to be here. So if you have a question about operations, I can point you to that person. I mean, I'd love to chat with you, but I typically hire people that are better at me than doing these particular tasks. So sales, I can point you towards Sarah. Production, I can point you towards Scott. You got a question, we're going to have a team member on site to talk about it. So, and we might also talk Sarah into making some smoked hash brown casserole on the 27th. Not heated. We're both learning. Another thing that will kill you in dry setting is the customer who wants to wiggle every post. That is the truth. So dry set with compaction works so long as there's compaction. Now, when you start moving these posts around, when you start wiggling them, I don't know why customers think that 30 minutes after you set this, that your taillights haven't even cleared the corner. They're going to go out there and they're going to wiggle them. Make sure you set these posts right. And they're going to call you and say, well, every one of these posts is loose. Well, they are now. Well, if you go and shake them some more, I bet they'll be even looser. I mean, at this point, go ahead and pull them out because you've really screwed all this. You screwed up all our work. We make a point to send an email. So on Friday, so yesterday, we sent out an email to all next week's projects that are coming up. We say, Monday's your start day or Tuesday's your start day. Keep in mind, so we wet set works for our process, right? We're going to set in concrete, and then we're going to come back 2 days later to finish your fence. Please keep in mind that these posts will not be ready to build on for 2 days. They're also not ready to wiggle for 2, and we use the term wiggle for 2 days. So please do not wiggle the post. Don't let your kids swing on the post. Please do what you can to keep these posts wiggle free for the next 48 hours after we set them. And then the concrete will be solid. It's cut down on the amount of post resets for curious customers who just want to wiggle everything. Agreed, Rachel. Any day that can include smoked hash brown casserole is a yay day. How do I register? My crew and I are excited to come, learn, work, and have fellowship. So if we're talking about the open house, check the event on Chattahoochee Stain's Facebook page. I mean, you can go to my Facebook page, facebook.com/The Real Joe Everest. I have a link to their event in my events. So click upcoming events, click on their event. It'll take you to them. I believe they have a registration there. If you're talking about the free training event here in Springfield, that registration is in the description below. Now, keep in mind, there's not going to be a fence installation. Do we call it fence installation school? I don't know if that's what we called it, but fence installation training. We're not going to have that here because the site that we're at doesn't need a fence. We built their fence 6, 7, 8 years ago. Built it a little while ago. So they've got all the fence they need at the moment, unless something catastrophic happens in the next few weeks. So we're not going to be doing fence installation. I just said we're not. Yeah, fence installation training. We're going to have fence stain training, fence cleaning training, and then we're going to talk about business development, that sort of stuff. So as long as you're bringing the crew to learn about staining or cleaning, I think that they'll like it. Or if you want them to learn about business, I'm a pretty big proponent of cross-training of people, right? But also bringing them in on what it looks like to run a business. So, there's two schools of thought. One, if they see what's going on in the office, then they're going to want to work in the office and they're not going to want to go build fence. My thinking is if you show them what's going on in the office, they're not going to want to work in the office because they see like what all goes on. It's not just card games and movies in the office. Like there's a bunch of legitimate stuff going on in here. And there's just as much work inside the office as there is out in the field. So if you're talking about bringing your crew to learn, just sit in on the business classes, I think that's phenomenal. I really do. Joe, do you guys attend mixers with the chamber, trade shows, or community events? Absolutely. So, in years that aren't pandemic years, usually all this. So, our city that we operate out of, Springfield, Missouri, the chamber has a chamber show, and then all of the smaller towns, communities around us have their one day, typically on a Saturday, chamber expos. Um, we go to all of them. Every single one of them I can get to, we will be there, and we've got just a setup for every single one of these. So, well, we've got two setups because some of them are 8x8 booths and some of them are 10x10 booths. So we've got a 10x10 canopy, an orange canopy that says Ozark Fence, and two bright orange flags that sit up in the sky and say Ozark Fence on them. We set that up at every single one. We've got a table, a tablecloth, and we've got a we call it tote, a crate with brochures. So literally, one person, can roll in here, set up the tent, set up the flags, put the table cover, put brochures out in about probably half an hour, and that's accounting for me stopping and talking to people that are walking by every now and then. It's a one-person deal. It's super easy. I enjoy doing it because it gets me out into the public and talking to people about fence, and that's something that I really enjoy doing. We also attend the bigger shows. So we've got the Home Builder Association's home show in the spring. It's typically late February or late January, early February in most years. I think this year in 21, I want to say it was mid-February, anyway, springtime or pre-spring, really. And then right after that one, a month after that one, we've got the lawn and garden show. So think landscapers are out. There's a landscape contest. I want to say it's like $1,000 to win based on landscape display. Like People's Choice Best Display gets $1,000. So they usually go nuts for that. And lots of flowers, lots of outdoor stuff, which so it makes sense for a fence company to be there, right? And we're all there. Me and all the other fence companies in town show up, and we build the same display. So at these we get, well, one show it's 8 foot deep, one show it's 10 foot deep by 40 feet wide. They're always 40 feet wide. And so what we'll do is the first show, the HBA home show, we'll build out a 40-foot booth, and it'll be some 4-foot wood. We do a lot of wood in our area. We are known for building wood fence. We also do chain link, aluminum, steel, etc., and onward. Wood's our main thing. So the whole back is wood. And then we have hand samples. Well, one of the sidelines is chain link split between galvanized and black coated. But the back, 40 feet, we got 4 foot, 6 foot, 8 foot in the middle. And it's all kind of tapered down and looks really nice. And we put a TV up at the top of that 8 foot, and it's showing just different videos that we've recorded throughout the years. We go big on the shows. I mean, it's actually, so I also have rental properties. My partner in the rental property has a remodeling company. Anyway, he's looking into getting into doing the shows. And he asked, like, what do you budget for these things? Like, it's about $8,000 a show, 8 or 10 grand a show. By the time we figure, payroll. So at the bigger shows, it's myself, my sister Sarah, my dad Jim. And then usually we'll have Scott, one of our crew, like our head crew chief. Really, he's in charge of production, and then other guys as they can come. Right. And Candace in the front office, she usually comes for Saturday because they can be nuts. So anyway, payroll, what these displays cost to build, because after lawn and garden show, we give them away. Literally, people just come and take it. 8 to 10 grand. So it's investment, but it's an investment that absolutely pays off. So yes, now mixers, I don't attend the mixers. I should, but I don't. The thing is, we're all trying to achieve some sort of work-life balance. And I understand there's an argument that there isn't a balance. I get it. I'm trying to achieve some sort of balance, right? So I've got young kids. I've got a daughter that's 12, a son that's 4, and another daughter that's 8 months. She's almost 9 months now. And these events are typically here in our area. The mixers, chamber mixers, like chamber after hours, that sort of thing, is during the week. It's in the evening when I would typically be hanging out with the family. I like to do that because they don't see me a lot. I'm at work more than I'm at home. So I like my family time to be my family time. And so I don't do the mixers. I don't know that there's a ton of value there for us. Very well could be. We deal typically directly with the homeowners. Now real estate agents are a pretty good lead generator for us. But as far as the other folks that'll be at the mixers, maybe not. Maybe. I don't know. But trade shows, I love trade shows and community events, the one-day chamber expos. I love them. I will do all of them, as many of them as I can, because they are so good. They're so good for business. If nothing else, just keep your name out there so that when someone is getting ready to build a fence, they think, who should I call? You know what? Who are those guys? I see them. They're every week. I've seen them 5-6 times. I got a bag with their name on it. Bright orange, I might add. Let me give these guys a call. If nothing else, it gets me into the consideration phase, right? So I love them. I do as many of them as I can. Matt says, we love trade shows. We use My Salesman to help people understand what a budget is for their fence. No tire kicker leads when you leave. Works for us. I agree. So that's one of the things we do at the multi-day shows. Now, the one-day shows, we don't typically set up My Salesman just because those shows are more of a branding rather than they are a direct sale, right? Now, the multi-day shows, people show up to the multi-day shows to buy something. They are in a consideration phase. They're not in a information gathering phase. So we'll set up My Salesman. We'll set up a computer with a large TV screen so that both people can kind of see what they're looking at. And we'll have one person dedicated the whole weekend to sit and do My Salesman. And they'll just, because with it, once you set the TV up, then it becomes like a spectator sport. Everyone wants to see what this thing is that somebody's watching because it's a satellite view of a house and it looks pretty cool. Anyway, absolutely agree. We love the My Salesman. Also, when we're done, we'll say, hey, I'm going to email this to you and we'll follow up with you next week and see if you have any questions about it. And it emails us the lead right then. So no more are we taking a pad and pencil and like, all right, what is your name and what's the phone number? And can we call you Monday morning? And we're hoping we get all this information right. And we're hoping that this pad of paper gets back in the correct vehicle, that gets back to the office and everybody gets called. My Salesman is a one-stop shop of all that information. It packages up and it emails it over to us. We have it set up where it flags it, so we can search by flags, and all the My Salesman from the show pop up. So it is a great solution, Matt, and I'm so glad you thought of it. Oh, look who's here. Sarah's in the house. Welcome, Sarah. Rachel Graham. Don't threaten me with a good... I don't say Rachel's last name. She just told me how to pronounce it, and I forgot. I'm not proud of that, but it happened. So I do know it's Rachel, and Graham is easier to pronounce. I don't even want to try it. Crocy, maybe? Cruzy. I do remember that now, I think that's right. Anyway, Rachel says, Sarah says, Rachel, don't threaten me with a good time. So it sounds like we're having smoked hash brown casserole at the open house. And then she says, best tool there is. So we could, and we probably will in the near future, do a whole show about My Salesman. We've used it. Sarah, how long have we used My Salesman? It's a long time. We have had this tool for, I don't even know, 5 or 6 years. Maybe long. I don't know. I had to go back and see. Oh, Rachel could probably look it up in the system and tell us. But we've used it for a while. For the first several years, we had it more as a, I don't know. We just had it on our website, right? If you had some extra time, jump on there, play around with it. Let us know if you have any questions. It went from that to now it's just a mandatory first step in getting a bid for Mozark Fence. You start with the quote tool. And then now there are exceptions to this, right? So new houses and houses with a ton of trees, we're going to go out and just look at them. Understood. But those are probably 5% of the calls that we get fall into that. Can't see it because it's not there, or can't see it because it's too many trees. It's just not, it's not viewable. Probably 5% of the time. And we still go out to those. I mean, you might as well. If it's a new home build, why wouldn't you go see new home build? Because they are in the decision-making phase. They're getting the decisions made on this new house. They're ready to buy because they want that fence done when they move in. So, but for all other calls, they go to the quote tool. And the quote tool, it's a satellite image of the home. They draw the fence exactly where they want, and they pick the materials they want. So when it comes to us, we already have a layout, right? And we know what materials that they're interested in because they've tried 2 or 3 different ones. They figured out which one fits the budget that they think, the budget range that they think they're in. Now, sometimes their clicking is a little bit inaccurate. So sometimes the layout is a little bit off, which is why we schedule a phone call so that we put some eyes on it. We also pull up the county assessors, the GIS map, geographical information, the GeoDraw map, or that's not the term, the geo map for the fence. Anyway, or for the lot. We figure it out. And yeah, so my salesman, mandatory first step, unless your house isn't there or unless it's covered up with trees. Might happen 5% of the time. Cruising. I'm not sure if that's the one I said that I thought I got it right, but we will remember it moving forward at least till the end of the show. Hopefully longer than that. I might remember it. So we have an AFA Midwest chapter meeting coming up 2 weeks from now. I might remember it then. We will see. You should ask me, and I'll stumble through it, I'm sure. Yeah, so 2 years exclusively without on-site. So we've been using My Salesman as a mandatory first step for the last 2 years. We've had it long. Before that, we had it as more of a like an accessory, right? Like I said, if you had extra time, you could go on the website and play around. But the last 2 years, it's been mandatory first step. So in the beginning, it was hard for people to wrap their brains around, right? So you're not going to just come run out here and measure my yard and tell me all there is to know about fence. No, I'm going to try to provide as much education to where I don't have to come out and tell you everything about fence. I want to give you the tools to understand what we're talking about so you can make an informed decision. Because I can tell you the sky's green, and if I make a really compelling case, sky's still blue. How about I give you the information to make your own decisions? We do that. We do a lot of education. And then, the My Salesman is the mandatory first step. Now, post-pandemic or during pandemic and post-pandemic, it's a little bit easier part of the conversation. I mean, it is part of our social responsibility plan, right? So this is us being socially responsible and issuing the tool so that we're not, I mean, Sarah can tell you better than I can, but we were seeing 4, 5, 6 people a day, 4 or 5 days a week, week after week after week. What happens in a pandemic spreading type situation when you're seeing that many people? I mean, you could take as many safety steps as you want. When you're meeting that many people that repetitively, there's bound to be an incident or an accident, right? So this is part of our social responsibility plan, and it just works. It's accurate. Anyway, February 2017, that's when we started. So 4 years. Is that right? 10, 11, 4 years. There you go. Seems like so much longer because time flies when you're having fun. Matt Warner's laughing and crying at the same time. I hope he's actually doing that. How funny would it be if he's at the show booth in Reno laughing and crying at the same time? That's a picture I'd like to see. Roughly, Sarah with the numbers. 98.7 totally love that they don't have to run home over lunch to meet someone or lots of someone's if it's getting multiple bits. Big fan of making life easier for our customers. I like the fact. Now, it's a made-up number, but I like the fact that Sarah led with figures. We're big on leading with information. 98.7. Now, let's talk about the 1.3% in this made-up number. 1.3% of people will not like it. They won't enjoy it. They will not do it. They expect someone to come out, put on a show, and teach them all about fence. They're just not the right clients for us. We're okay with that because there are people here in town that will go out and do on-site consultations, and we will give them their information. We will give the customer the potential, whoever's calling in, we will give them these contractors information. They're not the ideal client for us, and here's why. This is a process. Excuse me. Let me get a drink. This is a process, right? Our whole business runs on processes, or it should. This is the first process. This is a sale. Well, arguably, this is a second. The first process is the marketing process that got the phone to ring. This is a sales process. After the sales process comes the scheduling process. It comes the contract and the deposit process, and then the scheduling process, then the installation, and then the accounts receivable, the billing, us getting our final payment. It's all processes. So what are the chances that someone out there that doesn't like this process isn't going to like the rest of the processes, or they're going to want to try to control it? So that's typically, in this completely made up number, that 1.3% of the people are the people that want to try to control the process. They want to drive the bus. They do not want to ride on the bus. What are the chances they're going to try to dictate how the rest of your processes work? Probably pretty good. They're going to tell you that they don't do deposits, or you're going to sign their contract, or they're going to tell you when the best time to schedule the project is. They're also going to tell your guys and gals the best way to build this fence. And then when it comes time to bill them, they're going to tell you what payment terms that they will be paying on. I think that's a pretty good chance. If they're wanting to drive the bus in the beginning, they're going to drive the bus throughout the whole process. And that just doesn't work for us. The process we have in place is a process that works for us. And like we discussed earlier, that's the word, everyone has their own process, right? So we will gladly give them the information of other fencing contractors in our area that still do on-site appointments. It'd probably be a better fit for them. Go from there. But 98.7% of the time in this made-up number, they enjoy it, right? Because it's us investing in a tool that saves them time and gives them information without having a salesman or saleswoman sitting in their living room expecting them to make a decision. So this is you gathering information on your time, making a decision that's best for you and your fencing requirements. This is not even low pressure. This is no pressure. You do it on your time. And you only get in touch with me if you really want to talk to me. James says, being a member of a realtors association is definitely worth it. Okay. I like this idea. So real estate agents are a great referral source for us. I mean, kids, pets, and neighbors keep us in business, right? As fencing contractors, these are the three things that keep us building fence predominantly. Now, there's other reasons. There's also thieves out there that are making our lives much better because they're making people feel not safe. So we're building a lot of fence because of things. So kids, pets, bad neighbors, and thieves. We're going to modify this saying. But anyway, realtors are an amazing referral source for us. I didn't know that fencing contractors can join the Realtors Association. I was under the impression that was for realtors. So guess what's getting written down on the notepad? So we got Kill Frost on here. We also have Realtors Association. I'm not writing the whole word. Question mark. So I know Monday morning we need to check into Sarah. We are going to check into if a fence company in our area can be a member of the Realtors Association. I think you're right. I think that would be incredibly worth it. I bet if we looked into our referral sources, realtors has to be top 3. I mean, it has to be. I mean, previous customers are a good referral source. Facebook's a pretty decent referral source when you think about all these neighborhood organizations. You want to talk about word of mouth? Facebook, word of mouth on steroids, because you can go on Facebook and you can go into one of these I Love Springfield groups and say, hey, been thinking about a fence. Who does fence? And then all of the comments come in, right? And what I really love to see, Ozark Fence gets tagged 3, 4, 5 times. And I tell you what I do. The comment, I almost copy and paste it, but I change it because I don't want it to sound copy and pasted. I'll say, hey, James, thank you so much for tagging us in this. Your referral means the world to us. And then say Dean posted it, like, Dean, we would love to get you more information on the project. We actually have a free online quote tool. You can do this now. You can do this at 3 a.m. and let us know if what fencing that we offer is a great fit for you. Insert link to website. Period. I have it saved in my phone, and I don't know how I did this. So we will just we'll go into this later. But I have it figured out how when I type in the letters, I don't know how I'm going to show you guys this. So when I type in the letters QT, and it's just a hot key I have for quote tool, Like it comes pre-pot. You guys probably won't see it with the privacy screen, or it won't. It's not going to focus. But anyway, pre-typed in, and it says, "This is for someone that like emails." And thanks for reaching out to ensure you receive pricing in a quick and efficient manner. We've placed an online quote tool on our website. Head to our website at ozfence.com and look for the free online estimate button at the top of the page. And then I modify it to be, pertinent to that conversation, and it's just ready to go. So, what were we talking about? Facebook, great referral source. Realtors, it's got to be top 3 for sure. Milwaukee Fence Finder says, do you have any experience using CFS for quoting? Thoughts? I do have experience with CFS. We do not use it anymore for quoting. I don't know. So, kind of a typical conversation, right? If you don't have something nice to say, you don't say anything at all. That's what I'm going to say. So, we do use CFS currently for their price catalog tool. For us, it works really well. It's the best price catalog tool that I have access to right now that's already paid for. We paid for CFS years ago. Not up to date because of their upgrade policy, or they like to, anyway, don't something I say, don't say anything at all. We're saying that. We do use CFS for their, like I said, their pricing catalog. I think it's a great tool for that. We'll leave it there. Matt Warner, is that all right? Not the emoji king here. Is she doing this? Shh. Why is she shushing Matt? What did Matt do? Matt's just laughing and crying. Let him have his good time. Is that the thinking emoji? Is she wondering what he's laughing and crying at? That's more likely. So Sarah's clarifying. So Sarah said her clients like it 98.7% of the time. Sarah likes a process 100% of the time. For the let the record show. The record hereby shows that Sarah is happy with it 100% of the time. So I was talking to, who was I talking to? I was talking to a fence contractor in Nashville. Thursday or Friday. We were chatting about the process and this exact process, right? So he had heard me talk about that we use this as a mandatory first step for the majority of the time. If they show up on the quote tool, everything is completely virtual and phone calls, right? So they get the quote tool. We schedule a phone call with Sarah. Sarah looks at the quote tool, looks at the county assessor's website, make sure it makes sense, and then sends them a proposal, emails them a proposal based on that. This is how comfortable and committed we are to this process, that we will issue a proposal that we will stand behind based on these measurements. Now, trust but verify, right? So my salesman, we verify it with the county assessor's website. 90-something% of the time, 99% of the time, everything matches. That one other percent of the time, they drew it wrong, or they didn't draw it all the way to the back, or they drew it to where they thought their property line was. I think that probably comes up more than anything. If there is a difference in the footage, they weren't clear that their property line went out as far as it did, like in a side yard. They thought that was their neighbor's property because their neighbor has a flower planter bed planted right there. Come to find out, that's their flower planter bed. And when the old people that had the house moved out, the neighbor just claimed it, right? Started mowing. They had mow lines right there. That had to be the property line. Anyway, we are so committed to this that we will provide a proposal based on that. And we will stand behind that proposal. It's crazy accurate. Now, let's think about this. Let's think about the world that we live in when a satellite hurtling through outer space at very fast speeds that I don't know. I'm a fence guy. I'm not an astrophysicist, okay? Satellite zooming through outer space took a picture of your yard, and it's accurate within a couple feet over the entire fencing project. Let's take a minute and let's let that digest. That's crazy, but it's also accurate. Anyway, that's the line I use if people are like, well, but is it accurate? How can you give a proposal based on, and like, listen, that's the world we live in. This is the technology that we have access to currently, that a satellite zooming through outer space can take a picture, and this thing's accurate within a couple feet. I love that. I love the technology world that we're living in. I also talked to a camera in an empty room and 27 people watch it. I don't know how that works either. So technology is a wonderful thing. Anyway, we love it because anyway, I'm talking to this contractor in Nashville about it, and I said we are so satisfied with this process. If we weren't fully satisfied, we would change it. I mean, I am not about doing things one way just because that's how they've always been done. We will do them the best way that we feel possible, right? I'm not afraid to change process. In fact, my team would probably tell you I probably change it too much, but that's a whole different discussion. Anyway, yeah, it's a process that we believe in, and it saves us. So it saves us time. It saves our client time. Sarah can get out. Sarah will tell you how many more bids she gets out in a day using this process. Because so what I was telling him was our average turn time on a proposal when we were going out. So to go out to do the proposal and to get to the next job, hour 45, an hour and 45 minutes per proposal per day on average. There were some shorter ones. There were some longer ones, about an hour 45. So really, if we're talking about in-person estimates, proposals, 4 or 5 a day is really what you're capped out at. If you're also doing the project management, and even that's stressful. So there were nights where I'd go and measure. I wouldn't even get into the proposal at the time because I knew I had to get on to the next one. And we talked about fence. We just got to talking. I enjoy talking if you haven't noticed. And so I would get home, put the kids to bed, the wife would jump in the bath, and I would just start doing proposals. Tell me if that sounds familiar. So my entire evening would be this proposal. And then my wife would go to bed. I'd still be doing proposals. And she'd say, don't stay up all night. And I won't be all night, but it will be most of the night. And and that was kind of what I remember. I was sitting at my dining room table and it was like midnight and I was doing proposals. And I said, this is nonsense. This is junk. Like, why am I sitting at midnight on a Friday night doing proposals? I mean, it needed done. That's why I was doing it. But there's got to be a better way. I know there is. And that was the solidifying moment where we started going down the rabbit hole. I was like, we've got this tool. We pay for it every month. Why aren't we using it? Why aren't we using it to its fullest capabilities? So saves you time, saves you a headache, and you buy back your personal time, in my case. Sarah says, I've got a contact in the realty world that has invited me to their young professionals group. Let's do it. I hereby authorize whatever this is, and we will pay for it. Yeah, the realty world, I mean, like I said, it has to be top 3 referral source. Absolutely. I'm all about this idea a lot. So thank you for the realty idea. James says, very good point. One of the best things you can do is weed out problem customers. Absolutely. And they still get through. Some of them still get through. Rachel, if we can develop technology to weed out the problem customers that still make it through. A lot of them get weeded out. A lot of them do. Some of them are still coming through. They will follow the process, but they will still be a problem. We are trying to over-communicate. So that's a problem that customers have sometimes. So here's the thing. I have a 4-year-old. And so sometimes I view clients as 4-year-olds because if he doesn't get your attention the first time he says, like, Dad, he'll say a little bit louder. Now, he can clearly see that you are busy. You're in the middle of talking to somebody or you're in the middle of wrenching on something. You're busy. But the first time he said, Dad, hey, Dad, Dad. Like, it's all the times. He will say it until you stop what you're doing and you turn to him and you say, what? You have my attention. What can I help you with? And then he'll say, I got to go to the bathroom. You are 4 years old. You can go to the bathroom by yourself. I know. I just want to tell you I'm going to the bathroom. Go. That's fine. Anyway, sometimes clients are like 4-year-olds. If they don't get your attention, they will say it louder and louder. They will escalate whatever it is that they're trying to communicate until they have your full and undivided attention. And sometimes Sometimes my 4-year-old says, Dad, and then the second time he screams it in the side of my face. The clients will do this in forms of social reviews, right? So, actually, I was going through our reviews. We've got a recent 1-star review with someone that was upset because we wouldn't give them a bid on repairing their fence. We don't do fence repairs. We don't do residential fence repairs this time of year because we're so booked with full, and we explain this in a nicer way, but we explain that we don't have the capacity to take on new projects that are this type of project. And then we give them recommendations. Well, this guy felt like his opinion wasn't heard. Straight to Facebook, 1-star review. Wouldn't help me at all. We would have helped you. And we tried to help you. We tried to refer you to other people. Anyway, communication. One of the things that solves these issues. But so we use a quote tool so that they can be in charge of their layout, their everything, the material selection. They see the budget, the whole thing. They go through that process, and we over communicate. Well, they get emails all the time. So one of the things you used to tell people all the time is like, listen, you will receive so many emails. You will be happy that the job's over because the emails will stop. The problem is the emails don't stop. We're still going to follow up with you. We're going to follow up with you at 6 months. And then every 6 months, you're going to get an email. Hey, and when I was in Sarah's position, hey, Terry, it's Joe of Those Arc Fence, just checking in. It looks like it's been about 6 months since we wrapped up your project. I want to make sure everything is still just as right as rain as it was when the day we left. The big piece of feedback, the number one piece of feedback, or number one thing we deal with about this time is gates. We actually offer a limited lifetime warranty. So if your gate is dragging, sagging, warping, twisting, which we know it's not because it's got a steel frame, but we still say it. If your gate's hard to work, let me know. I'll schedule the guys to come swing by when they're in your area, free of charge, get that gate working. Also, did I mention we provide the following services? We provide, if it's a wood fence, we offer a on-site staining in case you didn't take advantage of a pre-stain. And every 6 months they get an email. And this leads to more work. So anyway, over communication. But still, we get problem customers. So we need to develop the technology that weeds these people out. And I'm not going to call them by name because some people out there might call them like a Karen. I feel like that's not fair to Karens. I know a few Karens. They're really good people, and I like them a lot. Now, I know other Karens that absolutely live up to this name. I know people with other names that live up to this name. So I'm not going to call them Karens. Problem customers. If we could develop the technology that weeds them out, I'm a buyer. Sarah says, I could put out 5 times the amount of proposals easily. And also think about the no-shows where people don't show up to in-person estimates. At least now it's a phone call. I nailed it. Hit the nail on the head. Is that the thing? Is that the saying? She absolutely is spot on with this, is the no-shows. These used to drive me nuts. So our process was they use the online scheduler. So right when they scheduled the appointment, they would get a confirmation email. They would also get a phone call from our office 24 hours in advance. Well, the day before. It might be 30 hours or something. The morning before. If I was supposed to be there Tuesday at 2, Monday morning they were getting a phone call. Just want to make sure. Looks like we got Joe scheduled to be out there at your yard tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Want to make sure that still works for you. Give you the opportunity to reschedule if you need to. We would do that. They would get an email at exactly 24 hours. So Monday at 2 p.m., they would get an email. And an hour before, they would get another email. So Tuesday at 1 p.m., they would get an email. Joe's working on getting to you right now. Joe's working on getting to you right now. He's still scheduled to be to you Monday at 2 p.m. They're getting all of this communication. Like I said, we will over-communicate as much as possible. And still they don't show up. Like, how? How is this possible that we have talked to you on the phone? You have gotten, by this point, at least three emails that says Tuesday at 2 p.m. And each one of the emails has a rescheduling link in it. When we call, that's one of the things we said was, just want to give you the opportunity. I understand life happens. I just want to give you the opportunity to reschedule if that's necessary. No shows used to drive me up the wall. Like, absolutely not. Sometimes there's a good reason. Okay. Most of the time, no good reason. So, again, it's a phone call. It's a missed phone call, and then they end up calling back later in the afternoon because something happened and that's fine. We didn't waste a half hour getting there and a half hour getting back or getting to the next appointment. So say I'd rather have a 30-second missed call than an hour's worth of driving around. It realistically sometimes it's 2 hours of driving around because you got the first time and then they call that afternoon realizing that they missed you and they reschedule another time for you to come out. You had the first hour, now you got another hour, and there's still a chance that you're not going to get this job. So, anyway, need to make a few questions to add to the filter. Are you a crazy person? Number one, I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off. Let's call it what it is. Are you a crazy? Have people in your past called you a crazy person? Have more than 2 people in your past referred to you as a crazy person? If so, you have a great referral network of people that would love to come build your fence. Children have Dane Bramage. They give you Dane Bramage for sure. Like my little guy, if my youngest one, this 8 going on 9-month-old, makes it through like growing up without brain damage from my son, she can get through anything. That boy's tough, and he thinks everyone else. So that's his problem, right? So he's a tough kid. He's all boy, and he thinks everyone else is just as tough as he is. That's not always the case. So that happens. He knocks her over a bunch. So that's just him being a 4-year-old. Anyway, guys, we are caught up in the chat. If you guys have questions, comments, I would say concerns, but I don't think anybody's got concerns. If you got concerns, drop them in the chat. We'll talk about them. Questions, comments, drop it in there. We got a little, so we are 2 hours into this, which means it is 11:51. We got half an hour. We have 39 minutes left remaining in this week's live broadcast. So for those of you that weren't here in the beginning, let's talk about where I'm going to be coming up in the future. October the 4th, I'll be in Columbus, Georgia for the grand opening of Chattahoochee Fence, or Chattahoochee Stain. Chattahoochee Fence and Stain? I should know this. Sarah, if you're watching, drop it in the chat. But I think it's Chattahoochee Fence. It was Chattahoochee Stain, then okay, Chattahoochee. I'm going to be there October 4th for the grand opening. I am so excited. I met this couple, Aaron and Sarah. I blanked on the names for a second. I met Aaron and Sarah at the training event at Chesterfield Fence, Michael's place, probably a month ago. And I'm telling you what, we need to figure out, and I know how we do it. We do it with testimonials, right? But we need to figure out how to spread the message of what goes on at these training events. What went on, and it wasn't me. It was Sean. It was Aaron meeting Sean. But what happened in this training event fundamentally changed the trajectory of Chattahoochee, Fence and Stain. Or was Chattahoochee Stain at the time? I think it's Fence and Stain. Irregardless is a word. I will get to that. But it changed its trajectory. They had let go of their team members on the fence side. They were winding down the fence company. They were only going to do Stain. It's him and his wife. They're just going to do Stain and ride it out with Stain. After the weekend, after meeting with primarily with Sean and then talking with some of us about business and that sort of thing, they are fired up about building fence, and they went and found a location. They're having the grand opening October 4th. I will absolutely be there. I think Aaron and Sarah were going to be I think they're going to be our future fence leaders. And I think it's going to happen pretty quickly. So I am so excited to get down there, see what they have going on. If you are in and around Columbus, Georgia, if you want to make the trip over, October 4th is their grand opening. More information, Facebook.com/The Real Joe Everest. Get you to my public figure page, events tab. I shared their event on my events tab, so you can click it. It has their address, it has the times, it has all the pertinent information. You can find it all there, October the 4th. October the 28th and 29th, I believe, the last Thursday and Friday of October, we will be having a free training event here in Springfield, Missouri at the Doubletree. We will be talking about fence staining, both hands-on and a fence staining 101 course by Caleb. We'll also be talking about business development, business culture with Matt Warner. I'll be talking about everything social media, talking about shooting video, which if you've seen any of my talks before, I am passionate about getting you to start shooting video for your company today, tomorrow, if not today, but today. I will also talk about social media, how important it is to have these Facebooks live on Facebook, YouTube, to do live broadcasts such as these, to connect with your audience, right? I think this is an incredible way for people to feel like they know you before they've met you. So we're going to talk about that. Free training event, October 20th, 29th. If you've registered for this tree training event, free training event. The registration link is also in the description below if you're watching on YouTube. On Facebook, it'll be in the events page. Anyway, if you're registered for this free training event, October 28th and 29th, you're also invited to a private open house here at Ozark Fence. The whole team will be available, Sarah included. She's the nice one. Everyone will be available for you to ask any and all questions. We're going to cater in lunch at our cost, and we're going to feed everybody. And rumor has it, Sarah's making smoked hash brown casserole. I am very in for that. So, yeah, I look forward to meeting you guys. If you're in the South, Columbus, Georgia, Fort Benning area is where it's at. The first part of October, the last part of October, if you're in the Midwest, Springfield, Missouri, I would love to see you guys come out. It's a free training event. Don't feel like the value is commensurate with the cost. Does that make sense? I think that makes sense. There's a ton of value that goes on in these training events, and we trade out services to keep them free, right? So we are staining the DoubleTree's fence at no cost to them. They are providing discounted hotel rooms. They're also providing the meeting rooms, the conference rooms for us to do the inside training portions, if you will. They're also feeding us lunch both days. So thank you, DoubleTree by Hilton in Springfield, Missouri. O'Reilly Hospitality Management is who that is. So appreciate you guys a lot. I appreciate you. And so if you guys are in the area, come out and come see us. Link is in the description for the registration. If you're watching us on YouTube, if you're watching on Facebook, go to the events, facebook.com/The Real Joe Everest. If you /Joe Everest, that's my personal page. Go to my public page. It's got all the information. My personal page doesn't have that information. Doesn't have a picture of my kids. Doesn't have any information about the events I'm going to be at. All right. Alan says it's probably something you could talk to psychologists about. Questions that will identify personality traits, but not as forward as, are you crazy or do you feel the need to talk to a manager? I don't know, Alan. I mean, I understand where you're coming from, and I like it. I'd rather just come out and say, I like your, do you feel the need to talk to a manager? On a weekly basis, how likely are you to ask to speak to a manager or supervisor? If it is once or more, we have a referral network of qualified contractors in your area that we'd love to send you to. We are not on that list. You can talk to somebody else's manager or supervisor at your leisure. Just don't bring it. Don't bring that to me. Don't bring that to our door. All right. I agree, Alan. I mean, there should probably be some psychology to this. So let's talk about a subject that came up in the comment section of one of my recent YouTube videos. I used the word, what was it? I said I was going to come back to it. I lost it. Something irrelevant. Nope. Lost it. It'll come back. COVID brain is like a really serious thing. Like it is like a legitimate thing. Like you randomly forget stuff that you just thought you're going to remember unless you write it down. So I should have wrote it down. It's, I lost it. Okay. We'll come back to it. When I think about it, I'll stop and then we'll talk about it. But it is a real word. So someone said in the chat, several somebodies said in the chat, it's not a real word. Not a real word. It was, what did they say? They said it was created like on Saturday Night Live or something. They're like, Saturday Night Live made this a word and it's not a real word. Well, I Googled it real quick, which they have access to that same technology than I do. If they're typing in the chat on YouTube, they have access to this technology. You can type in Google. What is the word? Close. I almost had it. Is such and such a word? And it was. Merriam-Webster Dictionary said it was a word and it had been used for over 200 years. And do you think I said that in chat? Yes, I did. I replied back. This is actually a word. I said, what did I say? Thank you for the opportunity to further educate myself on this word. I've Googled it and I came up with Merriam-Webster's definition of this link here. It is, in fact, a word. And actually, it's been used for over 200 years. There it is. Roger with the win. Irregardless. They were saying, now, you can also say regardless. I say irregardless for whatever reason. Probably because maybe I'll watch that Saturday Night Live skit. Irregardless is a word, and it's been used for over 200 years. Now, before I found that out, I totally believe these people. Like, irregardless probably isn't a word. I probably used it incorrectly. I use lots of words incorrectly. Happens all the time. So, what was it? In the post-phone video, I used the word level instead of the word plumb. Did I know the word plumb? Yes. Was it in my vocabulary? Yes. Did I use it in the video? No. I used the word level. I said that the post, we checked the post. I think what I meant to say was we checked it with the level. But I said we checked the post is level. And we're going to keep checking it while the post foam expands and make sure that the post stays level. I said this word 2 or 3 times in the video. I said level, and I feel bad about it because the amount of feedback I got, and we will use the word feedback as a nice term in the chat about this supposed expert using the word level instead of the word plumb. And he is not an expert because he should know. Experts would know that the proper word was plumb. I get it, right? I also think that there was no one that was misled. There was no one that was confused when I said that this post was level. I think they knew. It was completely vertical. It was not off kilter. This thing was straight. I used the word level. Should have used the word plumb. Happens all the time. I use words like that are wrong. So when someone told me I was wrong about using the word irregardless, I believed them. I was in for it. I was getting ready to apologize. I was like, you know what? On the off chance that I got this word correct, let's Google it. And I literally Googled, is irregardless a word? They could have done it, but they didn't. They went straight to chat. And Merriam-Webster Dictionary, black and white, right there. If it's on Google, it's got to be true. Irregardless is the word, and it's been used for over 200 years. And now you know. And G.I. Joe said, knowing's half the battle. Thank you, Alan. This was kind of my point that I thought of. I did not put this in the chat or in the comment section because sometimes you just don't feed the fire. You just let the fire burn itself out, smolder, and die. You just don't feed the fire. But yeah, exactly. I checked it with my level. The post was plumb. All right. I did not use a plumb bob. I checked it with a level. So therefore, I said the post was level. Like I said, my overall point, everyone understood what I meant. Did I use the incorrect word? Yes. I use lots of incorrect words. And as long as everyone gets the point, I feel like we're accomplishing something. Let's talk about the title of the show. Joe Everest, the fence expert, or the title of the channel. Get some heat for that. Joe Everest, the fence expert. If I had this to do over again, if I had to rebrand the channel, and if I didn't have like shirts made and stuff like that, I would probably call it Joe Everest, a fence expert, right? The fence expert maybe sounds a little bit pretentious. I understand that now. Fully comprehend that. I'm not saying that I am the one sole expert of fencing worldwide. That's not what we're doing. Let's talk about the word expert. So I should know this. I could Google this, but we're talking to you right now. There was a paper that was published that said this guy had done a bunch of research, and his conclusion was to gain expert status in any given trade or any given skill, to gain expert status over something, whatever you're interested in. To say you're an expert at it, you get 10,000 hours, 10,000 practicing hours. So I started doing some math. I said, well, tell you what. So I found actually Candace, our retail rock star and my our admin and just our all around like office gal, like head rock star office gal. She found this the other day. My legal official start date was September 9th of 1999 because that was the day I turned 16. And legally, we could put me on paper. Because before that, it was like, no. All right. So I don't know that we're going to get too deep into this subject because I'm not an expert at this subject, but I should bring on a CPA. Currently, you can hire your children and you can have them work for you, i.e., my daughter cleans her office, and you can pay them, and you can put that money into whatever your state's education fund is. You can put it in a retirement. You could really put it wherever. Retirement fund, education fund, like Missouri has. Is it the 503 plan? I think it's a 503 plan where you could put money in an educational fund, and as long as that money is spent in the state, the state will match it. So she turns 18 and there's 50 grand in this thing. As long as the tuition stays in Missouri, the state of Missouri will match it. So if she has 50, the state will pay 50. Now, she can take it out of state. It can be paid for any educational expense anywhere, but it's worth $50,000 anywhere outside of Missouri. It's worth $100,000 inside of the state of Missouri. We can pay her. We can put it in there. So says the CPA. Not so says Joe. So says the CPA. Now, I don't know that was a thing in the mid-90s. Could have been. Very well could have been. But for whatever reason, I was not employed on paper at Ozark Fence until I was 16 because my dad believed that child labor was like, he didn't want to even get into that conversation. Now, did I work at Ozark Fence prior to 1999? I don't know the statute of limitations. So I will say maybe that I worked here since I was in middle school. Maybe I did. Depending on statute. Anyway, Dad started having me work here since I was, like I said, middle school. 99 is when so 1999 is when I was like on paper, legally legit, hired at Ozark Fence. 16th birthday. What a birthday present. Congratulations. You can now get like a real paycheck instead of, alternate forms of payment. So, anyway, did some math. Since 1999, at 40 hours a week, which I think we all know, as a young kid working with your dad, 40 hours probably doesn't cut it. But 40 hours is a conservative number, right? 40 hours a week. We'll call it 50 weeks a year. It's probably more than that, but I'm saying 50 to accommodate for holidays, etc. There weren't many vacations at 16, but we'll call it 50. Anyway, I cleared 10,000 hours pretty easily. So, called an expert. Anyway, lots of heat. Not lots of heat. Occasional heat. Like, what makes you the expert? Like, well, a expert. I understand. Should have been Joe Everest, a fence expert. We went for YouTube is about going for it, right? It's why crazy thumbnails outperform normal thumbnails. I get that comment sometimes, like, why are you making those stupid faces? Why are you making silly faces? So here's I don't know if this is a hidden fact or not. You guys probably know it. If you look at our thumbnails, so we have a video coming out in, what time is it? 12 o'clock. So hour and 1:45 on Saturdays, new video comes out. If you look at the thumbnail today and you look at the thumbnail tomorrow, they will be different because we have a program, or that shows my age. It's not a program. It's a web app. I don't know what it's called. What is it? That's a web app, right? An application. So it's a software, and it'll switch out the thumbnails every day, and it'll track views, it'll track conversions, and it will tell you which thumbnail has performed better for this particular video. And for like 3 months, we tested normal picture, silly picture, or crazy picture, goofy picture, whatever. The goofy, silly, nonsense pictures outperformed normal pictures by a landslide. It was not even close. So that data told us that these goofy thumbnails work better. That's why we use the goofy thumbnails, because YouTube's all about going for it. It also is about going for it in your channel title and all that. So if I'm sitting down at the table and you say, Joe Everest, are you the expert in the fencing industry? I'm going to say no. I can introduce you to so many experts in this industry that know more about this, whatever subject than I do. Tony Thornton, Mark Olson, Sean King, or just Matt Warner. I can go on. This list is extensive. I absolutely understand that. But if we're talking about YouTube channel names, the fence expert, for whatever reason, seems to be a polarizing title. And in YouTube, polarizing is the name of the game. So, let's see. Roger says, I was born, not a real word, in Toledo, Ohio, and I use word wrong all the time, according to my wife. I was born. I don't know. Is it not sounds like a real word, if we're being honest. Born, I mean, I get what she's saying. Born is probably the correct word, but born sounds like an action word to me, but okay. Yeah, it's one of those things. Like, you get it. If Roger's like, I was born in whatever, in Toledo, Ohio, it's not like I would be completely lost at what we were talking about. Like, I was like, oh, okay, he's born in Toledo. Sounds like a good place to be born to me, or born to me. Yep. I agree. Alan, I agree. Go to the hardware store and buy a plum. You could get a plumb bob. Some of the comments inform me that the origin of the word, I get it. You can go buy a plumb bob. That's fine. Well, actually, the video, the India reaction video, was that last week? Last Saturday, maybe? The India reaction video, they were using a plumb bob. So I thought that was interesting to see an actual real world use of a plumb bob in a fence installation. I think, I could be wrong. I think you would be hard pressed to find a plumb bob in more than 2% of the fencers' toolboxes here in the United States. They're all using levels. But by golly, do not say that fence post is level. You had better say it's plumb, or else no one will know what you're talking about. Oh, no. Don't start this. Dude, we are skipping that comment. We're not even going to discuss it. Because the fence expert, we were going to say, we should do a video on this, on what this channel is going to be called, or like possible names. Like the fencing expert came out, but you fence guys know like the confusion on like fencing, on guard, and fence installation, like put the post in the ground. The confused, like there's that. So, and even still, the fence expert, I still get, so not necessarily like here, right? But like in airports, fence expert. And they look at me because I'm not in shape. I'm not the kind of shape to be doing on guard fencing, right? Can you guys see that? On guard fencing. I understand there's confusion. I'm like, no, like building a fence in your backyard, and then we get it. Okay. We're also going to say so how this name came about was, so there's a gentleman called Roger Wakefield, the expert plumber. He's out of the Dallas area, Dallas metro area. He's the one that got me into YouTube, is because I met him at Social Media Marketing World several years ago. And he's like, you're a fence guy. I'm like, yep. He goes, I'm a plumber. Okay, good to meet you. I like plumbers. They're really good people. He goes, look around at this convention. He said, I think we might be the only two tradespeople here. And that was absolutely true. There's a lot of marketing agencies or a lot of like freelance marketing folks around. We were probably the only two tradespeople in this entire place of like 15 to 20,000 people. So he's like, we should be friends. I agree. I like being friends with lots of people. So we had dinner that night. Him and his stepson, Will. Will continues to work with us on our YouTube channel. He's, I guess you'd call our YouTube coach, maybe. Of course, he does a lot of. He's also an editor of ours. So if you like how the content is edited, thank you, Will. But we had a talk anyway. So the plumbing expert. So we thought about, the expert plumber. So we thought about the expert fencer, but then we're like, on guard. That's not going to work. And so anyway, we went through about 20 different titles until he said, what about the fence expert? I'm like, sounds pretentious. Like, that's what YouTube loves. YouTube loves polarizing things. So thus, the fence expert was born. Roger says, I love it as the fence expert. We who understand the difference between plumb and level know you're not saying the only expert. Fair point, Roger. Fair point. Yeah, you guys get it. Like it's the whole thing. Like there's more than one way to build a fence. There's more than one expert in any given industry, right? So I says, love you, Joe, but please don't start doing Joe in a bikini thumbnail. Roger, I don't own a bikini. So now I'm not going to say I don't control the thumbnails. Like, let's let that cat out of the bag. Like, I'm not in charge of thumbnails at all. Will does the thumbnails because Will understands like what makes YouTube tick. Like, he's one of these guys that just intuitively understands what's going to do well. So I'm not saying he's not going to take my face and put it on a bikini. That would be weird, but it might happen. But no, I will not be dressed in a bikini taking pictures. Unless someone can prove to me that it will do really well on YouTube, it's probably still a no. So, but like what was it? Last Wednesday, not this past Wednesday, but Wednesday before, we were talking about transportation shortage. It was the last video in the Tony Thornton series. And he had taken my head off and like put it on a truck driver's body and me making some goofy face or whatever. And in the comments, but deleting people is super easy, or deleting comments is super easy on YouTube. So it's just like, don't need negativity. Productive negativity, I'm okay with. Constructive criticism, I will leave it in and I will answer it. And we will talk about it. Nonsense criticism, not going to have it. Alan says a lot of guys that set by eye will keep a plumb bob on them. Okay. Okay, cool. I will stand corrected, Alan. I will. And this is probably a regional thing, right? So here in our area, I wasn't I knew what a plumb bob was, but I wasn't brought up using one. But I could see, but we also use string lines, right, to set. Another argumentative topic. I'm going to say it. We set with string lines. Actually, now we set with equalizers by Mr. Fence Tools. So yeah, we weren't setting by eye. Now when I was a kid, we had a guy here this is when we had set crews and finish crews. The foreman on the set crew set by eye. And this guy, he was something to see. Like his eyes he had like 22 vision or something like that. Instead of 2020, it's like 2010. He had just eagle eye vision. And he could sit there and set 1,000 foot by eye. And you could, at the time when I was a kid, we didn't have drones, but you could have thrown a drone up in the sky and that thing would have been perfect. Like he had those eyes. The problem with setting by eye is that isn't really a trainable skill. It probably is a trainable skill, but it's not a repeatable skill, right? Or the training to get someone to have that kind of repeatable skill would just be crazy. I really think it would. You can teach them to work off a string or an equalizer, something similar, a jig, if you will. Easier. That process is more easily repeated than training someone to look with just eye in a fence post. Now, speaking of Mark Olson, he's got a video on eyeing in. I believe it's on the SW. I think it might actually be on the Profitable Contractor or Contractor Success channel. Anyway, how to eyeball in fence post. It makes perfect sense. And I understand a lot of guys do it. For us, it's more easy to train using a string line and operating off a string line than it is using the eyes. Because also eyeballing in is a bit subjective too, right? Or a bit objective. It varies, right? So my eyes aren't the same as your eyes, aren't the same as somebody else's eyes. So there's going to be a margin of error in there. At least with string line, you could probably argue there's still a margin of error, but it's significantly less than the margin of error on eyeballing in. But if you are using or if you are setting by eye, then using a plumb bob, I could see how that helped. It'd be like calibrating the eye while you're setting posts, right? I can see that. What about something like Joe Everest, the go-to fence expert? I like it. We got shirts made though, so it's like, And actually, so probably getting different shirts made. I'm not like super thrilled with how these shirts look like on camera because what brought this to my attention was this past Wednesday, like as in a couple days ago, was the recap. So this is another thing we're doing. So these lives run 2.5, 3, 4 hours sometimes. So what we're doing is the hot take series on Wednesdays where we take a 10, 15 minute snapshot of the overall live, condense it down, like I said, 10, 15 minutes, highlight of that live conversation. But I was wearing, actually, I've got it. I'll show you. So I was wearing this shirt. Refocus, please. Forever Fence and Rail. Great shirt. Thank you so much for the shirt. I do appreciate it. I was wearing that shirt. And I was like, I like how that shirt looks on camera better than this shirt. This shirt's like really like, I guess, blousey. I don't know. Is that, I think that's the right term. Blousey. Big. But the shirts fit weird. Like this, you go the next size down in this shirt, and it's just kind of awkward to sit in. But anyway, thinking about getting new shirts made. I don't think we're going to rebrand the channel though when we get new shirts made. You're just going to get new shirts made. What do you guys think? Let me ask that. So there are 11 of you that have made it for 2 hours and 20 minutes. Probably not all 2 hours, 20 minutes. I get it, but thank you. Wifey's calling, so that probably tells me we're getting close. Yeah, about 11 of you watching. So what do you think on collared? Let me move the mic. Collared button-down shirt. I think it's a nice look. I think it's professional. I think it looks good. Or a shirt more like this fine shirt. Now, this fine shirt is actually easier to make, and it's probably less expensive, but it's a t-shirt. So I don't know. Because here in the office for Ozark Fence, we're actually having some polo shirts made. So maybe that's a third option, polo shirts. That could be a good option. Just what do you think on shirts? I think button-down collared shirts, they look nice, but I think they're on their way out. I don't know. We'll see. What do you guys think? Tell me in the comments below. Alan says, I forgot about the plumb bob by eye thing until last week. I had guys come set new power poles. Well, that's so absolutely. Power poles make a lot of sense because the taller something is, the more obvious it is when it's out of plumb. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So, I mean, I always think of it in extremes, right? So if it was however tall this pin is, 10 inches, and it's a little out of plumb, not so bad, right? If this thing is 40 feet tall and it's a little out of plumb, it's a lot out of plumb at the top. So I would love, you know what? So Matt Warner's coming on the show, ironing out dates. And when I say ironing out dates, I mean I need to send him some dates to come on the show. I'm telling you guys, like that's going to be one of these that goes long. I just know it because I have all the questions for Matt. But one of them is like, I have the utmost respect for someone that says like 40, 50, 60 foot tall poles. So they have a massive netting division. That's what they're known for in the United States is their netting. They also do fence, but they're best known for netting. I would like to know the process of making sure that post is perfectly plumb so that the top of it is exactly right. I would love to see or just hear about what that process is like. Because my thinking is if you can get a 60-foot pole, 40, 50, 60-foot tall pole, perfectly plumb, thank you. An 8-foot tall post, not a problem. You ought to be able to get those things just smoking perfect. So I think we could all learn from that conversation. Roaming Tortoise, I love that name so much. Ditch the collar. Don't be corporate America. Heard. All right. So we're thinking maybe a t-shirt. I'm more comfortable in t-shirts anyway. So we'll see. Thank you. Vote has been counted. I like polo shirt. You can dress it up or down. They're more comfortable than collared dress shirts. The collared dress shirt doesn't have the best fit unless you look like Sarah. True. What are you saying, Rachel? You saying I don't look like Sarah? What's that supposed to mean? I don't know. It's true, but I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Roaming Tortoise, we in the trades are real workers, not office gossipers that want to impress each other with collars and ties. Well put. I hear that. So that has been heard for sure. I like the Button down, but not in safety orange. T-shirts look better in safety colors and are more comfortable to work in. Heard as well. So it's going to be orange. No matter what we do, it will be orange for reasons. There's a video in, depending on your, let's see, this comment's coming from YouTube. So in my video section, there's a, just search why I wear orange. There's a video there and it explains everything. So one of the comments I get, not so much anymore, but there in the beginning of the channel was like the incarceration. They're like, is this video coming from prison? I'm like, how many prisons do you know that put people in, like, again, like button down, like collared shirt? Like, are there some really nice prisons out there? Like, I don't, never been in prison. I mean, maybe, I guess, but because what it is the tattoo. Like, well, if he's from, if he's got tattoos, got to be from prison. Well, actually, no, you don't. But thank you for your preconceived notions about tattoos. Rachel says, I like to wear a dress. Well, Rachel, I won't be wearing a dress. That's out. So dress was not an option. T-shirt, polo shirt, button-down shirt. Those are that. And dress, not so much an option. That's a whole conversation that's best had not on YouTube, I think, and Facebook. But anyway. All right. So, guys, we are coming up to the end of this. So far, missed phone call count is at 1 from the wife. So we need to address that in short order. But I'm here for you guys for the next 4 minutes. So if you guys have last minute questions, comments, concerns, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to chat with you for a few minutes. But we do have a hard out at 12 or at 12:30. Yeah, I almost said 2:30 because the countdown timer says 2.5 hours. Anyway, my niece's birthday party is today. So actually, my niece and nephew. We have through marriage an upcoming nephew. So anyway, niece and nephew's birthday party is today, and I want to go because there's going to be cake and ice cream. That might be why I don't look like Sarah in clothes, but cake and ice cream, I'm in. It's true. Men have kilts, not dresses. A couple of my buddies are into what do you call it when you toss capers around? Capers, telephone poles. They're into those. The Scottish games. Probably butchered that one up. Apologize for that. They like to throw really heavy stuff around, and they wear kilts. I can appreciate kilts. I probably won't wear one, but I can appreciate them. Just because I don't wear them doesn't mean I can't appreciate them. So, great point. Guys, got a new video coming out today. Let's see what today's video is. Sometimes I'm just as surprised as you guys are. Because we record these things so far in advance that it's just, we recorded. Oh, no, actually, I think today's video, I think we just recorded it because we needed an on-site video. We kept getting questions and comments about cantilever gates. I think that's today's video. Let's see. I'm navigating through the YouTube menu right now. Yep. How the heck do cantilever gates work? That's today's video. So it's basically just an overview on cantilever gates. Went out and found a cantilever gate and did a video in front of it. Because there were several comments, probably 5, 6, 7 comments throughout videos asking about how cantilever gates work. So, and they were all pretty much that. Like, can you do a video on cantilever gates and how they work? Sure. 4 rollers. Big gate. Goes in the middle of the 4 rollers. Just kind of works. So, but anyway, we did a video on it. So that's today's video. How the heck do cantilever gates work? Let's see how long a video this is. Took like 2 hours to film. It is, let us see. I probably should be better at navigating these menus. Oh, 6 minutes, 57 seconds. So it's on the shorter side. Not a long video, short video. Always helps when you guys watch videos. I appreciate you guys. You listen, the 9 of you that are in here at the end of this stream when we're just filling up the time to get to 2.5 hours, you're the real MVPs. And you're the one that watches the videos. And I appreciate that. So I appreciate you guys watching. Appreciate your comments and your thumbs up. As Roger said, I pinned it to the top of the YouTube comments because he's always reminding us to give the lives and the videos thumbs up. Wednesday's video had one thumb down. Like there's always got to be one, right? And it was literally just a pared down. It's a hot take. So it was literally me. So this one was me and Caleb and Sean just chatting about things we get annoyed with on Facebook groups and talking about finance. What else we talking about? No, we talked. There's a lot of good stuff in there. It was one of these it was alive. So we were just kind of like going from one conversation to the next. You know, one of the questions and when I shared this out earlier on Facebook was like, what specifically is the topic? There's hardly ever a specific topic. We just see where the chat takes us and we see which rabbit holes we wind up down. Caleb and I have been known to talk about aliens in Antarctica from time to time. Just depends where the chat takes us, really. I mean, that's how we know like what you guys want to talk about. That's how I know what you guys want to talk about is through the comments and the questions, right? It's why should I sit here and talk the whole time about something you guys don't care about when you give me that information in the chat? So anyway, very rarely do we have a specific topic. We might have like an overall discussion theme. Very rarely do we have structured anything here. All right. It's called a caber toss. I think I said that. I might have said caper. I think I said caber. These guys throw really heavy stuff really far, and it is amazing. All right, Alan says, I just want to know why cantilever gate rollers are so damn. Not wrong. Not wrong, Alan. That's the thing. So we use the sealed bearing neoprenes. I think they're pretty much what everyone uses. I saw one where was it? In our market. Wasn't here in Springfield. I think it was down in Branson. Missed call counts at 2. Oh, that's because we're a minute over. Anyway, saw one with steel cantilever rollers. I didn't even know they still made those things. All I've ever seen is neoprene rollers, but those things are crazy expensive. Roger's got my back as always. Hard out. Ice cream and cake time. You're not kidding. And it's time to see my niece and nephew. So always a good time playing with the kiddos because I really relate more to kids than adults, if we're being honest. So kid at heart sort of thing. Guys, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys and gals. I say guys like universally. It's like the royal we. It's like the royal guys or whatever. I appreciate you folks sticking with us this long. I appreciate you guys so much. You guys make this possible. Thank you for those that have left chats and comments and questions and all that in the chat. You helped us go by. And just like that, we're over 2.5 hours. I know we had a hard out, but I need to say hi to Ned's. Hello from Nottingham, England, from Lee and Laura. Lee and Laura, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us in the land of D&J projects. David was in here in the chat earlier today. Welcome to Nottingham. I actually want to, I don't know if I'm letting cat out of the bag. I think I've said this. I want to get to Nottingham and do a video with D&J in person. Those guys are up to so much good stuff over there. Anyway, Billy, thank you. Had a birthday a couple days ago. Now I get to go celebrate my niece and nephew's birthday. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate you tuning in. You guys make this so enjoyable every week, and I appreciate that a lot. For now, I'm Robin Hood Country. Nottingham and was it Nottingham Forest, right? If the fairy tales are true. Anyway, guys, thank you again. I'm Joe Everest, the fence expert, and I'm reminding you that good fences make good neighbors. And I'll see you next week.